Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the District 2 Citizens Advisory Board meeting for March 10th. My name is Tim Johnson, and I'm substituting this evening for Council Member Becky Tuttle, who is with the Wichita delegation in Washington, D.C., representing us at the National League of Cities Congressional Cities Conference. We have a pretty lengthy, well, not lengthy, but pretty complicated agenda here this evening. So I want to get started first by welcoming our brand new DAB board member. Her name is Tom Lynn, and you're going in the deep end. So thank you so much. First item on our agenda is going to be approval of the agenda for this evening. But before I ask for a vote on that, I would ask for a showing of hands. Who's here for the car wash agenda item? And who's here for the residential B&B item? It's pretty much 50-50. We'll leave those in the order they are on your agenda then. So to get started, let's, I'd ask us to go around the table and introduce ourselves, what neighborhood we represent, and what's our favorite thing about Wichita today.
It's always such a hard but yet easy moment. My name is Jim Groff, and I'm on the HOA board with the Equestrian State Homeowner Association. And my favorite thing about Wichita, I have to bounce around here, and I'll probably have a repeat on this one. It says our medical facilities, doctors that we have, our size community. We have a lot of really neat professional, great healthcare.
My name is Faith Martin. I represent the East Ridge Neighborhood Association, and currently my favorite thing about Wichita is civic engagement. I love how Wichita is so involved. This meeting is a perfect example of that, but with everything going on locally, it's just fun to see citizens out and speaking up and telling government what they think. I really love it.
Again, I am Tim Johnson. I represent the Willow Bend neighborhood, and today I'm going with, we have 4 seasons in this community, and we're seeing spring right now.
For now.
For now.
John Baker, Pine Meadows Homeowners Association, and I like the way that Delano is developed.
I live with the state, I also like how it's talking.
Mila Burrell. I live in the Brentwood Village community, and I like all the options for food.
My name is Bruce Gass. I'm a board member of Chisholm Creek HOA, and I like to think I represent the common man and woman. And I would have to say that I love the artwork and the murals and the way the artwork keeps our city from looking like a prison as we drive by.
Thank you, Bruce. I see people standing in back. There are at least 2, if not 3 chairs up on the front row, and another one 3 rows back if you'd like to use one of those seats. All right.
I don't know if you heard in the back, but there's 3 seats up front here.
All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes of February 10th, 2025. First thing I'd ask is everyone on the board had an opportunity to review those minutes. And if so, do you have any modifications or corrections to those minutes?
Are we approving the agenda or the minutes?
Sorry, let's back up. I thought we already had the agenda approved. I would appreciate a motion on approval of the agenda as it is written.
So moved. Oh, second.
If you get the second, please. Faith and
We both moved and seconded.
pick your motion and move her to your seconder. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Abstain from.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now, we will move to approval of the minutes of February 10th. Do we have any additions, changes, modifications to that? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Oh, and seconded.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Thank you. Yes, on both of those. votes.
And thank you so much for really good minutes again. They're very robust.
The next section of the agenda is the public agenda, and we have no scheduled appearances. However, anyone who has an off-agenda item who would like to speak is welcome to do so, but I want to define off-agenda items. If you are here to speak about the car wash or the Airbnb issue, those are separate agenda items, and you will have your opportunity to speak when those are being considered. So having said that, is there anything else that anyone would like to share with us at this point in time? Okay. We are ready for staff reports. Is Community Policing Officer McElwain here or online?
Did we get a report?
No. Should Officer McElwain join us, we will receive that report at that time. Is Fire Battalion Chief Gresham present yet? I believe he is at a call out. John Sidwell, Park and Recreation report.
Well.
There is a fire report though.
Yeah. Well, we're moving through these staff reports quickly, aren't we?
We have four chairs up front here.
Does anybody in the back need a seat? There's some in the front.
A cushy one up front.
Yeah,
Everyone knows arms. All the seven people.
Next is John Cleary, who I see on the screen. John, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is John Clary. I'm the manager at the Rockwell Branch Library, and I'm here to give the March Wichita Public Library report. First of all, my favorite thing in Wichita right now is all of the food truck opportunities. Weather's getting nice, and it's very nice to have those food truck opportunities available in Wichita. So here's what's going on at the library. We have two remodeled Wichita Public Library branches that are set to reopen to the public this month. The Angelou Northeast Branch Library, located at 3051 East 21st Street, officially reopens on Monday, March 17th. And the Westlink Branch Library, 8515 Beckemeyer Street, officially reopens the following Monday, March 24th. Plans for a grand reopening celebrations are in the works for later in the spring, and the dates for each of these will be communicated in the coming weeks. Beginning last March 5th, last Monday, and until the branch opens to the public, drive-through services at the remodeled Westlink branch location will be offered at reduced hours for holds pickup and returns only. So the regular hours will resume on March 24th, but the reduced drive-through hours are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday 1 to 5 p.m., closed on Sunday for the drive-up window. Construction here at the library system will continue with our Rockwell Branch Library at 5939 East 9th Street. We will be closing to the public next Sunday, March 16th, for the next phase of our remodeling. We've been adding a new addition since last summer, and that's approximately 75% complete. And now they're ready to kick us out of here and start on the interior remodeling of our existing library space. The last day of service again at Rockwell will be Sunday, March 16th, and is expected to remain closed through the fall of 2025. While Rockwell is closed, hours will increase at the Angelou branch to ensure that residents in Northeast Wichita have full library service. The updated hours at Angelou will be the same as the current ones at Rockwell branch, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Sunday, 1 to 5, and beginning Memorial Day through Labor Day, will be closed Sundays during the summer. The Wichita Public Library launches its national Big Read program, where we'll be exploring the title Sitting Pretty, the view from my ordinary, Sitting Pretty, the view from my ordinary resilient disabled body by Rebecca Tossig, with a kickoff at 6:30 p.m. on Friday, March 14th at the Advanced Learning Library. Join us for a celebration with a variety of entertainment and a free copy of the book while supplies last. The Big Read is presented in partnership with Envision, the Kansas Leadership Center, and Sedgwick County Department of Aging and Disabilities, an initiative of the National Endowment of the Arts in partnership with Arts Midwest. The Big Read broadens our understanding of our world, our communities, and ourselves through the power of shared reading experience. From March 14th through April 26th, our Wichita community will celebrate with a full calendar of events, including panels, discussions, art-based events, and more. For a full schedule of events, please visit wichitabigread.org. Due to the weather closures we had in February with all the snowy weather we had just less than a month ago, the Amplify 365, a year-long series honoring Black culture, keynote presentation by Letitia Kelly, which was originally scheduled for February, was postponed. The rescheduled date is Wednesday, March 12th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Advanced Learning Library. Please join us for a conversation on celebrating Black culture, history, experiences, and stories all year round. And finally, next week is spring break for the kiddos. So there are plenty of opportunities to keep the kids and teens entertained at the library during spring break. We have a full series of events happening across the library system from March 14th through March 22nd. For a full calendar of events, please visit wichitalibrary.org/events. And that's all I have for you for this month. Can I answer any questions for the group?
Thank you, John. Any questions? Well, we'll leave you to your evening. Thanks again, John.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Our last staff report is Gary Jansen, Director of Public Works, who will give us an update on the city's Stage 2 drought response. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me be here. Especially as we start seeing this unseasonably warm weather and everybody wants to start getting their irrigation systems going. So we've been going out to all the district advisory boards and talking to everyone about where we're at with the drought response plan. So as you know, late last fall into August, we activated stage 2 of our drought response plan, went to mandatory watering of 1 day a week. We are still in stage 2, nothing changed. So I wanted to talk through some of those details and what we're doing, in addition to the drought response plan itself, looking ahead, moving forward, making sure we're all on the same page. So hopefully, Teresa, will get this PowerPoint going. I will tell you, so last November, we had a record November rain. Thank goodness for that, because Cheney was even lower at that point. It did bring the water elevation up a foot, so that's something. The snow hasn't done a lot. You know, the old adage is it takes 10 inches of snow to get 1 inch of rain. So we didn't get a lot out of that. But hopefully we'll get some spring rains. But the current level of Cheney is impacting where we are at. Ready to go? So I've got quite a bit of information because if you've got a lot of important business to do tonight, I'm gonna hit through this pretty quick and then I absolutely come back and answer any questions. I'm also gonna talk about this at the Saturday breakfast for anybody who's interested, so I can answer questions then too. City of Wichita has two raw water sources, Cheney Reservoir and our Equus Beds well field. The Equus Beds, even through this drought, is in good shape for a lot of reasons. Especially for our aquifer storage and recovery project, which I'll talk about more in a moment. Cheney Reservoir is 7.5 feet below normal. That's what's really impacted us in causing this issue. We generally will use 55 to 60% of our water supply comes from Cheney, the balance from the Equus Beds. There's a reason for that. Our current water treatment plant, which we're getting closer to replacing, is limited on the amount of groundwater it can treat. That's been a challenge for us. So we've known since we started work on this new water treatment plant, it's going to bring us more resiliency, more flexibility. We can treat more groundwater. So that's going to be good as we get further into 2025. I want to mention El Dorado real quick. People always ask, why don't you get water from El Dorado? We've done numerous studies over the years. The water, when we need the water from El Dorado during a regional drought, point in time that we need the water is not available. They have a limited water rights available within the reservoir. When we need that, it just wouldn't be there. It would be a matter of days is all we would get out of it. The watershed that feeds El Dorado is also a lot smaller than Cheney, so it takes longer to fill up if you actually get rain, which we have not gotten in the Cheney Basin. Talk about our two water treatment plants. Top is a picture of our current water treatment plant. It was built in 1939. We made a decision in around 2018 to move forward with the new water treatment plant. If you've been at Northwest Wichita across the street from the zoo, you've seen what's happened since 2019, 2020 for construction of our new plant. We're going through performance testing now. I'll talk about this in just a minute on what's going to happen when this plant's going to come online. Wichita is a regional water provider to 500,000 residents. That's 17% of all Kansas. 1 in every 6 Kansans gets water from us. We have 150,000 customers of our own in Wichita. We have 11 wholesale customers. We provide water to 8 neighboring cities, 2 3 rural water districts. And I talked about water rights. So over time, the region has developed because of the water that Wichita has been able to supply. Cheney Reservoir was built in the early 60s for the sole purpose of providing water to Wichita and the region. So it makes sense that we're a regional water provider because there's not a lot of other water rights out there. I highlighted Derby and Valley Center because there's some help on the way for additional water source. Derby has some untapped water rights. Here in the next couple of years, they're looking at building a treatment plant. They can't entirely serve Derby with it, but they can handle the higher demands during the summer, which is a big, big deal when we see the most impact on Cheney Reservoir. So that's going to be very helpful when they get to that point. Valley Center is even closer to building their own treatment plant and coming almost entirely off of our supply. They've got water rights that they can use also. So I'm going to mention real quick, all the drought restrictions apply to all of the wholesale customers, all of our customers. That's residential and commercial both. All of the above applies to everybody. We get a lot of questions about who it does and doesn't apply to. Approximately 20% of our annual water use is outdoor watering during the warmer months. So that's what our drought response plan is focused on, is that discretionary outdoor watering and why it was set up that way to limit to 1 day a week. Talk quickly about the Cheney pool condition. I mentioned 7.5 feet below normal. We're going to remain in stage 2 restrictions. Our goal more than anything right now is to stay away from stage 3. If we get to stage 3, all outdoor watering will be eliminated. That's the last place we want to go. At that point in time, we're going to start impacting businesses, especially landscapes, nurseries. They've already been struggling. We've been talking to them through the fall as we went into stage 2 last year about the things that we can do to help. And there's something I want to talk about that in just a moment. But we want to stay away from stage 3. Right now, our projections is we won't get into stage 3 this year. And let's keep our fingers crossed that we get some spring rains in particular. The basin that serves the watershed that serves Cheney Reservoir, 600,000 acres in the North Fork of the Nenasko River. And within that massive basin since 2022-ish, we're more than 2 feet below normal precipitation. So that's been a real problem. United States Geological Survey, they measure inflow to reservoirs, all of the reservoirs within this state. 2/3 of all Kansans receive water from federal reservoirs. And the inflow to Cheney's lowest has been in 57 years, which is basically when it was built. So we're in a historic time here of drought within this basin. I show the picture on the left because I also get a lot of people asking, why don't you dredge Cheney? Why don't you dig a bigger hole for when it rains, you'll have more water, right? We have spent a lot of time and money over the years on watershed protection programs, working with state of Kansas, working with some folks in the area, and which has done a tremendous job to keep sediment out. The last study that was done by the Kansas Water Office showed that sedimentation, Cheney has only lost 5 to 7% of capacity from sedimentation. Dredging is expensive, extremely expensive. You gotta have a place to take the material. It costs a lot of money and you get very little gain for the additional water. It's just not a viable proposition. We've looked at the cost benefit and it's losing every single time. So that's not an option, but we're doing some other things. There's one silver lining in this whole thing. To the right, those two pictures are the Cheney Dam. It's over 2.5 miles long. We've needed to make repairs for some time, and we're out there making repairs right now because the water level is below where we need it to be. We had the project design, we had the permit in place, we had the funding set aside. We were finally able to pull the trigger. Contractors are out there working now. If the water happens to come up, if we get some big rains, we have a separation clause in our contract and we will not finish the work because we're not going to lower the reservoir to get that work done. We'll have to come back to it later, but that's been a good thing for us. We worked with the Kansas Water Office to make sure they understood what was happening in our region, because if you looked at this drought map from the governor's office back in August and September, it didn't show any of that red. It looked as if we had no problems in this part of the state. If you look at the National Drought Monitor right now, it doesn't show anything. And so the importance of this is we're hoping at some point in time, depending on how long this goes, that we could be qualified for state and federal aid to help us continue working through this drought. That's our hope anyway. Certainly doesn't hurt having the governor's drought declaration of emergency in this area. Our drought response plan is in 4 stages. It is meant to carry us over the course of 8 years to get us through a Dust Bowl type drought. Our goal with this, when this plan went into effect in 2013, a lot of you remember that's the last really bad drought that we had. City Council codified this. They put this into ordinance, this 4-stage drought response plan. First stage was active. Each stage is based on the 12-month running average of Cheney Reservoir. And I'll talk about why that's important in a minute, because we're going to use the same thing to come out of it. Stage 1 was activated in January 2023, which is the city manager calls for voluntary water conservation measures. The biggest thing that happened there is the city of Wichita internal conservation plan is activated at that time. We had already started doing some things. I'll show you a resource here in a moment where you can see our internal conservation plan. City of Wichita organizations, large organization. We've got a lot of facilities. We've got a lot of ball fields. We've got a lot of places to use water, golf courses. And we have really dug in and cut back on our watering, all of our facilities, everything that we do, washing fire trucks, washing golf carts, on construction projects for use of water. We're trying to find everywhere we can to save, because we need to lead the way. And as we started into this, we heard from the public that said, we'll start saving water as soon as you do. And that's fine. I get that. And I think that we've done a good job of showing some places that can be done and providing some good examples. Again, based on the 12-month running average of the conservation pool of Cheney, stage 2 is activated on August 5th. We went to restricting outdoor water usage to 1 day per week. No watering between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. Again, this applies to all of our customers in Wichita, all of our wholesale customers, residential and commercial. I looked at some of our detailed numbers the other day, and it was pretty consistent across the board. The majority of the customers for the entire base are in Wichita. If you look at all of the water we produce for the region, Wichita customers are still 90% of the whole, right? But there was considerable savings from Derby and the other wholesale customers too. So when we started into this, we didn't know what to expect, right? Never done this before. We were in, just come out of July, very high water usage. We were hoping, not knowing any better, that we could come back down 10%. The very first week we saw 35% savings. So people really got on board. Our hope was this for to be a collaborative effort, and I think it has been. With stage 2 and beyond, there's a penalty and there's potential fines with that. We have not tried to make this punitive. We don't have the resources to go out and police this. We've had our construction inspectors or housing inspectors and other, if they happen to be in an area, they'll watch and see. We did issue a few fines last year, mostly warnings. We've got public can go on the portal and report if they see someone, which we would appreciate. Because sometimes we came across some people who just don't follow much. I know some people late in the year that apparently don't pay anything attention to the outside world and had no idea that we were in this stage of the drought. So it's good to get the word out. It's good to let people know. We're going to stay in stage 2. Try not to get stage 3. Stage 4 is the far reaches of the drought. This plan is meant to extend our public water supply. It won't necessarily stabilize Cheney, although we did a fairly good job with that late last fall. It's meant to extend our public water supply as long as we can. Last quick comment on this. Cheney fills back up. If we get a bunch of rain, we will not immediately lift stage 2 restrictions because we're going to use the same 12-month running average to come out of it. We can't just go back and forth, right? And so it'll take a few months for that 12-month running average to catch back up in case we get some big spring rains, which we'll hope for. Best thing we can hope for now is to stay in stage 2 as we get through this year and be able to get Cheney filled back up. Probably everybody has seen this. I won't spend a lot of time on it. Watering in quadrants. This is still in place. Northwest is Monday, Northeast is Tuesday. Andover customers are direct customers of ours. So Andover customers north of Kellogg, that applies to Tuesdays. Southwest is Wednesday. Southeast is Thursday, and then Andover south of Kellogg is Thursday. No watering on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. The drought response plan does not apply to those who have wells. We've asked for everybody to try to conserve, but this does not apply to have those who have wells. And a lot of places, when you get farther out east, they're struggling to find water now anyway, but it does not apply. So staying on once weekly watering restrictions, just as we started in August. We have tried to provide as much resource information and outreach as we can. SaveWichitaWater.com is on our website. This is what the homepage looks like. It has a dashboard for Cheney. We thought it's important for everybody to understand the level of where we're at. Along the left side, it's a little bit hard to see, but we've done a lot with K-State Extension, Sedgwick County Extension for irrigation education, lawn care, how you can save water. Our water conservation rebate program is back in effect now, retroactive first. You can see what our internal conservation plan looks like. We've got frequently asked questions. I'll just quickly mention, I've seen it for years. I've been with the city for 30 years. I've seen us have some problems with asphalt pavement in residential developments where there was a defect in the pavement and it was constantly holding water because you could tell the adjacent yard was being watered 7 days a week and probably twice a day. And I get it, right? Everybody wants a green yard. But the challenge with that is, number one, it's not a healthy yard. It's not a deep root system because it doesn't have to go find water. I'm not here to give you a horticulture lesson, but here's the challenge. If you were watering your grass 7 days a week and you went to 1 day a week, you'd probably shock your yard and might have killed it. And so it's better to be anyway. I believe, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, as we come out of this, even if Cheney fills up tomorrow, I think we need to do something different and not go back to watering 7 days a week. And I think we need to change the culture and we need to change what we do going forward because it's just not needed for a healthy yard. And we can look at long-term conservation. So really good information. SaveWichitaWater.com. What are we going to do for the future? I mentioned our Aquifer Storage and Recovery Project has been in place since 2012. The left, I won't spend a lot of time on this. The left picture, kind of towards the left bottom where it says river intake structure, that's a Little Arkansas River. This is northwest of the city where the Aquaspeds well field is. When the Little Ark River is up, we take water into this treatment plant through the settling basin, the pump station on the left. It goes to the surface water treatment plant on the right, and we inject it back into the aquifer. And we build up credits for farther out in the drought. So the Division of Water Resources, as the Department of Agriculture, they're the ones that issue water rights. We have annual appropriations within the well field. This would be above and beyond that. So what ASR is doing is keeping the aquifer healthy. It's keeping it full. And in the meantime, we get credits in the future, so we are building up as we get further into the drought, that we can catch those in and use more water out of the well field. But again, the well field's in great shape. We're continuing to do some additional efforts in the area of ASR in the well field to make sure that we can keep that aquifer healthy. New treatment plant will eventually enable flexibility in water supply choices during the drought. We can theoretically treat 100% groundwater only from this plant. If we have the supply, if Cheney's at such a spot, we don't even have water available there. We could provide water to the community during certain demands with groundwater only. It's flexibility we don't have now. This new plant's gonna do a lot for us that our old plant did not. And we're working through performance testing now. It's a very complex process. We've still got a ways to go. We're gonna take ownership of this plant probably in the next 60 days. We're gonna need to work with KDHE to finalize the permit. We're gonna need to run the plant ourselves to really figure out everything that goes on through the different seasons before we can start putting water to the system. But we're working through some scenarios now and some details, and we'll be kind of working some of that out as we go through 2025. The one thing I did.
People,
What's that?
did you find people to run?
We're still working on that. Thank you for asking that. We're gaining on it. That's still one of our challenges because for some period of time, we've got to run both plants. And so there's not near the market that there was at one time, especially for water treatment plant operators, but that's one of the things we're working on too. Our current plant, we're going to be making a recommendation to the city council on March 18th to keep that plant for emergency response. So even though this plant has got some built-in redundancies, it's a state-of-the-art facility, should last us a long time. Our city manager, when he was in Des Moines, Iowa, their plant got flooded and their community was out without water for over a month, and you can imagine what that does. So we want to keep our current plant online, the ability to bring it online within a short period of time. We're still working through some of those details. This is the biggest thing I wanted to talk about that we're excited about moving forward with and looking at a potentially new water supply for our community is through a reuse feasibility study. We just recently selected a consultant to help move forward with us on this. We'll be finalizing that soon. What you see on here, upper left is the green boxes are wastewater treatment facilities. Wichita Water Works, our new water treatment plant. Down at the bottom in the purple, Spirit Reuse. We currently, the treated effluent that comes from plant 2, our main sewer treatment plant at the south end of Wichita, we have an agreement that we send almost 1 million gallons a day to Spirit that they use for cooling, that they use for manufacturing, and offsets their potable use. Great for conservation. This effort's going to look at additional industrial reuse opportunities. But where we want to get to is to see if we can get to direct potable reuse, basically delivering that water back to ourselves. We've got 30 million gallons a day of treated effluent that could be a new source for water supply. Right now, it's going into our creeks and rivers. It's going downstream that somebody else is using it, and we do have the water rights to that. We could collect that water. We could bring it. It's a complicated process. There's only one facility in the United States right now that's operating as direct potable reuse. There's a lot of them moving forward. But it can certainly be done. There currently are no regulations in the state of Kansas that allow direct potable reuse. We've started down that path already, working with KDHE. I've been spending time talking to our council members about this, and I'll be talking to them more at the March workshop. But again, I talked about industrial reuse. So right in the middle there, our water center, if you're familiar with our water center that's in Herman Hill Park, Pawnee and Broadway. That's for treatment of the contaminated groundwater through the core of the city. Gilbert and Mosley area, North Industrial Corridor, if you've heard of those, it's what kept our core of our city viable because we took on that treatment. We have 1 million gallons a day of available treated effluent there. Our park department and our sewer maintenance division, they currently use that water for their purposes, cleaning pipes, watering trees. We just got our permit through KDHE revised to allow public use. And so first thing we're going to do starting April 1st, we're going to allow contractors and landscapers to be able to go there and fill up water trucks and tanks and use that water. I hope that helps because last fall I heard from landscape companies that said, I need to sell all this landscaping to these people and you need to give me an exception for watering. I says, we're not going to give any exceptions. The property owner called, they're forcing me to buy this, you got to give me an exception, I'm not going to give you exceptions. And I don't like doing that, we just can't do it. This would allow landscapers, hopefully, we've heard some from home builders who said they're not getting houses sold because they can't put in the sod. This would allow them to water it in, without using potable water, without using irrigation systems. We're excited to get this going and see what we can do with this. I just wanted to hit on real quick what potable reuse looks like. This is probably a little bit hard to see, but I won't spend a lot of time on it at all. Upper left is our wastewater treatment plant. You could assume that's one of our plants, 2 or 3. The effluent comes out of it. The 5 things you see in the middle is multi-barrier treatment. There's some of the current direct potable reuse facilities that are working on. They go through multiple barriers to make sure everything's right, everything's the way it needs to be. That's something we will work through on that advanced treatment. And then it goes directly to the distribution system. Our average daily demand for this entire region is 50 million gallons a day. So keep in mind, we have 30 million gallons a day going to the rivers and streams. If we could capture that and deliver it back to ourselves, we could have over half of our daily demand that we're bringing right back to ourselves to be able to treat. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. This could serve our region for generations to come if we can make this work. So we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be bold. There's a lot to overcome, but it can be done. Other communities have done it. I mentioned we've got to work on state regulations and funding, but we're excited to keep this going. There's going to be a lot more coming, and I promise I'm getting close to wrapping up. The other part we've done is work closely with the Builders Association. So as we went into drought restrictions in the fall, we spent a lot of time talking about HOA covenants, right? Because people said, I got to water my grass or I'm going to get fined. We sat down and talked to them. We're not trying to be restrictive any more so than we already are, or make it hard on anybody. Even those under HOA covenants have to follow local ordinance. They're not restricted from that. They're not covered by anything else. They have to follow. So spent a lot of time with HOA management, homeowners associations saying, hey, let's figure out something we can do here. I think from what we saw, a lot of the HOAs kind of backed off on things. We'd like to see more of that. I've asked the Builders Association and the developers to start building new developments that are drought tolerant and not saying you have to put in fescue sod. Everybody likes fescue sod. It takes a lot of water. We don't need to keep putting in fescue sod. That's one of our big requests of them. We're going to review our landscape ordinance, look at xeriscape, more drought tolerant type landscaping going into the future. Last part of this on the bottom right, a lot of our developments have a water source. Sometimes it's groundwater, and right now it's not as high as it used to be. My brother lives in a development in Jacksonville, Florida, that it's got, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 properties just in this one area. Every single one of them has reuse for irrigation from water on site. So it's a requirement. It's a law in Jacksonville. I think it's something that we could start looking at here. So we're going to challenge the buildings to start looking at that. We're also looking at what other cities are doing. Hayes has been working through drought for a long time. They've got a lot of restrictions in place. Can't water during the day. If you live in Hayes, you can't even take your hose out and wash down your driveway. That's prohibited. Considerable water use. It's just not needed. Oklahoma City is doing something that I think we should consider going forward, and they allow watering every other day. If you're on the even side, you water even days, odd side, odd days. It would make a big difference long-term for us in water use. I'm absolutely confident every yard will be just fine if they get water 3 or 4 days a week. So that's something we're going to consider looking forward. Just to summarize all that, we're saying in stage 2 restrictions, we're working on ASR improvements in the well field. We plan to be on Wichita Waterworks, our new water treatment plant, solely at the end of this year. We select a reuse consultant. We'll have under contract soon, continuing discussions with WABA, and then we're going to look at recommended changes for conservation requirements in perpetuity. That was a lot of information. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Gary. That is an awful lot of information. I've been following this for 35 years since I got into local government. And it's really nice to see what's happened in the last few years. We knew it was coming. You knew it was coming for decades. And now it's here. And I really appreciate what the city's doing, the multiple actions you're taking all the way to reuse of wastewater. One clarification question for me then, board members, if they have questions or if the public has questions. You mentioned the online resource is wichitawater.com.
Save Wichita Water.
Save Wichita.
I mean,
Water.
savewichitawater.com.
It's not a .gov like the.
No, savewichitawater.com.
Okay, I
If you
wanted,
go to our website, and it's a little bit hard to find, but if you go to our website, or if you just type in Save Wichita Water, it'll get you there.
okay, I
Yeah.
wanted to be sure because when I think city of Wichita, I always go .gov. Yeah. Any other questions for Gary?
But now you got me thinking, Tim, I'll have to check that.
I just looked it up. It's not good.
Is it go?
Yeah.
All right,
I think I'm just used to saying Save Wichita Water. Good question. That makes sense.
.gov. Any other questions for Gary?
You talked about, there's my notes here. You talked about, at 318, you're gonna talk to the city council about keeping the old plant. And then you said in a March workshop, you were gonna talk about the reusing the potable waters.
March 25th workshop is gonna be very similar to what you've seen here tonight.
Perfect.
I saw a hand or two out here.
back here.
Could you just move the microphone up so that it's?
Sorry, I should have done that to begin with.
Other questions?
Yeah, one, decades ago, I'm 75 years Wichita. Decades ago, they used that odd even water system. Why was it abandoned?
I have no idea. I've been in the city for 30 years and this is the first time we've been in water restrictions since I've been in the city. So that's a good question. And in hindsight, we probably should have.
I'm just curious.
I'm just curious, we're coming up a little later to discuss car washes. No restrictions on car washes?
There's not, so there's exemptions in the drought response plan. First thing we did not want to do is impact business, and so those businesses who derive their core economic income from water use are exempt. That includes car washes, includes golf courses. It has not been popular, I can tell you, I've gotten a lot of calls. So I will be the first one to say that I'm amazed at the number of car washes in this community. That's baffling to me. I'm surprised that they can sustain, they all use a recycle filtration system. They couldn't stay in business if they did, and there's no way they could afford that much water. So they recycle the majority of water they use. And I don't think that's true because not from what I've heard. I'm not gonna debate that part because I don't know for sure. But the fact of the matter is, I just will tell you real quick, there was a city in Indiana, Illinois that tried to push back and sued a business that was trying to build a car wash and they lost. In fact, they got countersued and they lost extremely bad because the court said that they could not restrict the type of business. I don't know if that happens here. It doesn't matter. That's not my.
City lost?
That's not, but the city lost. And so there's case law showing that you have to be careful about how to approach that. I recognize that. We want to be very cognizant about it. We've talked to those. I've heard different numbers, a lot higher than 1/3 about because we look at their water use and their water bills. And just based on that alone, they're recycling a lot more than 1/3 because from the amount of water they use, it's not sustainable. They'd have to charge $100 for a car wash just to be able to break even.
Thanks again, Gary.
I got a question about, what do you recommend for type of grass? Buffalo? For native?
We have gone to, on City of Wichita projects, Arturo Street projects, we've gone to Buffalo. It's resilient. It's not near as invasive as Bermuda. We used to use Bermuda and it ends up everywhere, but we've had really good luck with Buffalo. I think that would be a good way to go. Anything but fescue.
One last comment that I would make is that Gary will be the main act this Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. at the District 2 breakfast, which will be at the Region, 2050 North Webb Road, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Free admission, and I'm told free refreshments as well, which in my experience is pretty much coffee and donuts, but there may be a little bit more.
We did have French toast last night.
You give
So-
water houses.
You all are more than welcome. You're invited and encouraged to attend, especially if you just having just sat through this tsunami of water information, and I think that's what we're gonna have again
I'm
Saturday.
gonna hit on this again, along with some, the capital projects within District Two, talk a little bit about East Kellogg and Red Bud Path, some of those types of projects. So my contact information is easy to find if you go to the website. If you've got any questions at all, let me know. I like to hear from the community. We're still in new territory, right? And we're digging in and we're looking at what the communities are doing, but this is not, none of us are the experts in this. And so I've heard from some people that had suggestions that were great ideas on things we hadn't thought about for saving water. So I'm always open to hear any suggestions.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a note here that Chief Gresham has now joined us, so if you will come up and share your report with us.
Still have 4 chairs up here.
If anybody wants to sit, you can come sit in.
Pre-K.
I'll be quick. Most people I've ever seen in dad meetings, so obviously there's some other stuff that's gonna be talked about. A little bit more important. My name is Terry Gresham. I'm the battalion chief that works the A shift. We have 3 different shifts on this side of town. So roughly from Hillside over, I run this side of town. Just a few updates. We just had time change. Remember, check your smoke detectors. This time of year too, right now is with the wind blowing, as dry as it is, we can have a lot of grass fires. We can have the same situation that they had in California. So just because we're more spread out doesn't mean we can't have that situation. So make sure that you're cleaning up your yard, pulling your dead leaves, pulling your dead brush away from your house. I know we all love bushes next to our houses, but just be aware those bushes are just like wicks. And when something gets in that gets into your house. I was late coming here today because we had a house fire come in on Quinton. The back deck caught on fire due to the grill on the back deck. Time of days, we need to just be smart. You can have that, to be out there with your grill. Make sure you're watching, make sure you're being aware of what's going on. That's my biggest suggestions on that. Really, we had 21 fires come out that were investigated by our investigators this last month. We always are a month behind because we have to get our data. If you really look at that, we probably had triple those amount of house fires or structure fires in the city. Not all of them are investigated by investigators unless they reach a certain threshold, or we can't just come up with a determination when we arrive on scene. A lot of them are cooking fires, getting to the kitchen, everything else. But we are a lot busier and a lot of times what people think. Let's see, we did have a fatality fire on Eastern about a little over a month ago. That's one that is in our district. Cause is still under determination. We did have a fatality where he was pulled out of the structure within a minute and a half from when our crews arrived on scene. Unfortunately, he passed away. They did get him back, but then he ended up passing away afterwards. So no matter what, I want everybody here to know that when you call for us, we're gonna come, but we also want help. Good idea of what you got going on. How many people are in your house? Are you inside? Are you outside? If you cannot get outside, tell us where you're at. And the worst place to go hide is in a bathroom. If you're gonna go somewhere, go to where there's a window. You could easily, if it's a 2-story, hang something outside your window so we know where you're at. Close all your doors that are coming to you. Don't leave the doors open to the bedroom. If you do find a fire in your house, close that door to where that fire is. It's unbelievable how much that'll hold the smoke back and it'll hold that fire from growing or spreading inside the house. Usually the fire will spread or it'll grow 50% every 30 seconds to a minute. So you have to be aware of the impact of that if you leave a door open and you let that air go in. Just like if you have a fire in your house and you leave your house, don't leave your front door open. That's just feeding air straight into your house, which is gonna make that fire grow. We're still gonna go in, we're still gonna put it out, but one, it cuts down on the damage to your property and everything else. So a few things there. Biggest thing, like I said, I'm gonna keep it short, but just make sure, check your smoke detectors. They really do work. A lot of times when we do have fatality fires, we realize it's in locations that don't have smoke detectors or they're not working. So just be aware of that. Any questions from anybody? Cool. Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
There's a boarded up fourplex off Cottonwood that we saw fire and police at. And
Okay.
didn't know if that was maybe,
Off Cottonwood, I'd have to go look. Do you know the 100 block?
it's like, as soon as you turn onto Cottonwood off Woodlawn, but I think there might be squatters or.
There could be,
homeless-
you will notice a lot of times we'll be out, if we find squatters in homes or buildings, we will call PD. Because we will try to get them out, we will try to get, or the city to get them boarded up. If we can get that done, then we will. Now that it's warming up, it doesn't become such a problem, but during the winter it does. But yeah, that's probably what they would do is going through it, trying to clear people out. I know we've had to do that downtown on some. We do our best.
I just know you'll probably hear about it at our neighborhood meeting. People will probably ask you the same
We
question.
probably will. I know, I think one of the other battalion chiefs, actually, since it was on Cottonwood, he was telling me about it.
Oh,
and They
okay.
ended up getting people out and then tried to get it boarded back up.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if there's any injury. It's hard to, we couldn't find anything, so thank you.
Yeah, that's probably, I would assume that's probably what's going on. Anything else? All right, well, I'll leave everybody alone.
Thank you.
Well, now, the real reason we're all here this evening, right? We have two planning commission or planning cases this evening. Before we,
Get some air in here.
I don't know how, but I suspect it's that register, that control box there. They may need to go ask.
Well, it's set on 64, but it's
Fire station.
almost 80 in here.
Did you get it?
Is it working?
Well, the sun is coming in, so it'll make it hotter.
Did you get it? Did you get it turned on?
Or look at Teresa, she's ready.
Oh, no.
I tried.
Sorry. Well, keep us posted on how that fan's working back there. Before we get started on these two planning cases, I'd like to give an outline of how they proceed, all right? First, there'll be a staff report. I believe my notes say Brad Epperly with planning department is here to go over the staff report and explain what's going on in each of the cases. Once he's completed his report for a given case, then the applicant, his or herself, along with or may address the district advisory board. That might be the applicant, that might be a consultant, an engineer, whatnot, on the case. Following that, we will have a period for public comments. Then that's probably what you all are here for. And we'll sit here as long as we need to sit here and listen to what you have to say. But I would make a couple comments on that. One is, we will time your comments. We will ask you to state your name and your address when you come to the podium. We will you will be given 3 minutes to share your thoughts on the issue. We also ask that you not repeat what others have already said. Saying the same thing 10 times isn't going to make it 10 times more salient or powerful. And I know we all while we're all very interested in these items, we also want to get home this evening. The fourth step in that, after the staff report, the applicant comments and your comments, is the discussion by the DA members themselves. And at that point in time, following that, the advisory board will vote on a recommendation to the city council. This board has no binding authority to say yes or no on something like this. We merely make a recommendation based on our perceptions and our values and our interpretation of what you share with us. That will be a recommendation to the governing body, the city council. Before the city council sees that, both of these cases will be heard by the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, the Planning Commission, and that will occur this Thursday, the 13th, at the Reagan Office Building in downtown Wichita. Once that body hears these cases, they do make a recommendation that is binding upon them, not upon the city council, but upon them. And that will go to the city council. It is at that time between the planning commission's vote and the city council's vote that you, if you are in opposition to the planning commission recommendation, you may file a protest petition. And you will contact the planning department, the Metropolitan Area Planning Department, for information on how to go about doing that, what the requirements are. Any questions on the process? Well, then we'll get started with the first case, which is a conditional use permit for short-term rental at 8539 East Brook Hollow Lane in the Brook Hollow addition. And having introduced that, I'll turn it over to Brad.
Thank you. Once again, Brad Etherly with the Planning Department. We're here to discuss case con 2024-00278. For this case, the applicant is requesting a conditional use to permit a short-term rental on properties on SF5, single-family residential. The property is generally located 1/4 mile south of East Central Avenue and within 1/2 mile east of North Rock Road at 8539 East Brook Hollow Lane. And the site is currently in use as a short-term.
No, it is not.
Okay.
If we could just hold questions until public comment, please.
He's merely presenting the staff report at this point.
So the process for an STR is the first thing that would happen is the owner of the property would come to our department and try to get what's called an administrative permit. And so they would apply for that permit, and then we would send out letters to all the neighbors that abut or would abut the property if there were no street or alley. And so usually that goes 5 and 8 properties. And the process is that if the planning department receives more than 50% of those properties protest, then the permit is denied. And then at that point, the applicant has the chance to just convert it to long-term rentals or kind of up the ante in the process to try to get conditional use. And so the administrative permit is kind of handled in-house in our department. The conditional use requires a couple of public hearings, one of which we're at today, the other is the planning commission meeting. And then the final say we go to the city council. And so it's a little bit more of an involved process there. So having explained that, on December 10th of 2024, we did receive an application for an administrative permit from the owner of the subject site. And on December 20th, the planning staff did mail out the letters to the neighboring property owners. At that point, the property owners have 14 days to respond with a protest. And after the 14-day period, 7 valid protests were received, resulting in 100% of the eligible properties protesting.
Ready, non-bill?
I'm sorry, you'll have a chance to ask questions in a little bit. So on January 6th, planning staff did mail a letter to the applicant explaining the denial of the permit and what the next steps were. So on January 22nd, the applicant did submit an application to request the conditional use for the short-term rental. This is my first time going to be running through these. Maybe not. Making a little light. Long. Wondering if it's different with PowerPoint, so that may be why it's not.
Should.
Sorry about that. So if you can scroll down to the zoning map, Teresa, thank you for your help. One more. Yep, so you can see that this property is located within a whole area of SF5. It's surrounded by SF5, which is our single family residential district. So that's the zoning map. And a little bit of case history. This site was platted as part of the Brook Hollow Second Edition in 1970. And no other zoning cases are associated with the property. The site does have access to East Brook Hollow Lane, which is a two-way local street with sidewalks on both sides of the street. Municipal water, sewer services currently serve the site, and Wichita Transit serves the site approximately 1/4 mile south along East Douglas Avenue. As far as conformance to plans and policies, the conditional use request is in conformance with the community investments plan. The future growth concept map, if you can scroll down to that, it should be the next one, yeah, is it identifies the site as residential, and residential runs the full gamut of all kinds of residential types. So staff believes that a short-term rental is an appropriate use for this location. We can go to the site pics. And I did not take these pictures, so this is, the first one is looking south at the site, and then the second picture in the north, or in the upper right hand corner, is looking south at property east of the site. Lower left-hand corner, south of property west of site, and then looking north away from the site. Should be maybe some more. No, is that it? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, staff does recommend approval of the request subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. I can tell you that with public comment, let's see here, of course, we received the 7 protest letters, which were 100% of the abutting properties. And those protests were concerned about having short-term rentals impacting the comfort and security of their home. And it looks like there have been other public comments sent in since we got the conditional use application in. I don't know the number though. Staff's recommendation is based off of the golden factors. And with that, I can take any comments or questions.
If you have a question, please come on up to the podium to the microphone so everyone can hear. State your name and your address for the record.
I will say, I think that you guys ask questions first.
Actually,
And then the applicant has a chance.
Yes.
And
the
then it's
applicant
public
actually
comment.
has a chance to make the case.
Before the public speaks, he means the.
So I just have, I can take questions from you guys. And then the applicant has a chance.
Right.
And then the public after that, and then they have a chance to rebut.
Or
Bruce?
First half of the question.
Yeah. Okay, did I hear you say that a bed and breakfast is legal, so to speak, within the description of residential zoning?
So we do believe that it's considered residential instead of commercial. So that was something that we had to decide when this kind of process came about. And as a department, our directors kind of informed us that we do believe it's a residential use.
So that was, in reality, a bureaucratic decision
I have no comment.
coming down from the top. Not a popular one or a city council one or anything like that. It was within the planning department.
I would say, that, yeah, as the planning department decided, that was the case, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And this is, the short-term rental comes from all of the nonsense that happened with Airbnbs, and city council and planning said, we need to come up with a short-term rental.
Again, I won't
Ordinance.
call it nonsense.
Well, I mean.
But
everything
it
that
happened because of all the issues that came up, that I guess one specific.
And a lot of
short-term
public
rental,
feedback.
yes.
But the short-term rental ordinance was given multiple opportunities for public comment
Yes.
before it was passed by city council.
Correct.
Okay.
let me give a little bit of clarification here. The planning staff have a set of ordinances, rules, and regulations that they have to check off. Right? What doesn't enter in, or at least not very much, to their decision on a recommendation is their own personal opinions or values on this. They have to follow a set of, all right, of rules. So an individual planner may not necessarily agree with the recommendation, but they have to follow this set of steps in making that recommendation. So while it may seem like their recommendation is in deep competition or contrast with where you're coming from, they're not they have to be impartial, all right? They have to be impartial. Any other questions from the advisory board? I believe that it's time for our applicant or applicant's representative to come forward. Please share your names and addresses for the record. Here, what you have.
Hello, I am Michael Lee, and this is my wife, Jenny Dow. And we're the owners of 8539 Northbrook Hollow. We have several Airbnbs, and all the Airbnbs that we have are 5 stars. I mean, we have not at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any 4 stars or anything, because we really take care of them. When we bought the properties, they're very, very bad condition and everything, so we will remodel them, a full remodeling inside and out to make it look like the neighborhood. We put safety measures in place. We don't basically, we pre-qualify everybody. There's a 2-step qualification. First of all, you have to be like very good standing with Airbnb. Second thing, they have to request to rent our place. We don't just automatically rent to anybody. Then a lot of them will tell, I came here for surgery, or I came here for work. The last person that rented the house came here for their 19-year-old son that they've been supporting. So a lot of families come here just to come here to go to the museum, to the shops or something. We also put 2 security cameras front and back to make sure that nothing ever happens. We also have a noise decimation monitor system. So if there's anything that's above a loud noise, a screamer yelling, it will alert our phone. None of that has ever been activated. All right. I mean, we know what is right to run an Airbnb and to make it safe for the community. We don't allow anybody, just anybody to, our rates are very high. All right, so it filters out a lot of 80%. I mean, if we have pictures, but before and after, the house had mold, it was total mess. And we gutted it and we made it look like part of the neighborhood, all right?
Any questions from board members?
Oh, there's another thing, there's a comment like, will we rent our place that we live now, Airbnb? Yes, we would. We don't have any problems to do that. We like to share our property with anybody because that's our vision. If you have it, share it. You know, because a lot of people love to live, be on the lake or anything, you know, don't be selfish. You know?
So one question there.
Yeah.
So you would have then a, per se, or you would perhaps are your own management company or a management company that sort of critiques the applicants that are wanting to rent the property or some certain period, that you have some background history of these type of people or something
Yes.
before you do that.
Jenny does all that, okay? We not only manage it, but we own our properties.
All right.
So we will manage it like it's our home. If you look at our reviews, all 5 stars. There's not a 4, 3, 2, 1, nothing. We have 0 complaints for several years. You know, we have locations near downtown, near the Children's Museum, we're here College Hill. I mean, everybody loves it. They thank us for sharing their home, the values and everything. A lot of these people are really, they just want a house instead of staying in a hotel and be cramped. If you guys go to work for 6 days, do you really want to stay cramped in a room when you have 2 people? You want to cook, you want to enjoy. And that's what they do. They thank us. Yes.
So I've done Airbnb multiple times when I've gone to larger cities and I don't want to get a hotel. The number one things I look for are how is parking gonna be addressed? Because I've stayed in some Airbnbs where they're like, there's no parking, sorry. So parking would be one. And then there's a lot of, I read through everyone's comments that were submitted. The whole DAP has them. There's a lot of concerns about safety. So you answered that with the security cameras, the decimeter. You know, I think people are worried about strangers or walking, or, I mean, I guess none of us can really
Oh, we
control
also have
that.
quiet hours from 10 PM to 8 AM. There's quiet hours.
So yeah, I've seen a lot of Airbnbs where it's like, you can't have parties, you can't do this. So is that?
We
your
don't have,
tolerance?
we have
Okay.
zero tolerance for parties. Right?
And parking is,
Parking, we have in our driveway, 4 cars, then you can park 2 in the front, so 6. Usually the maximum we allow is 2. It says in our, when they book, maximum is like 2 or 3, that's it.
perfect.
Don't
Thank you.
park in our neighbors, don't.
So I have a question. You said you make sure that your applicants are in good standing. Does that mean you check references from where they rented from previous Airbnb?
Yes, so they have to be in good standings with, there's a column in Airbnb. If you want like 0 feedbacks or they have very good feedbacks, so that's the first qualification. Feedback has to be good. And then we check the history of those feedbacks.
And
Then
this
we
is-
ask them, what are you doing for? Is it for work? Is this for surgery? We got a review saying like, thank you for bringing my mom and letting her stay at your house because it's 1st floor and she just had surgery. You know, so a lot of these people come out for surgery because Wichita has the best medical care out of Kansas.
And is there a maximum on how many guests can be at the property?
We have on this property maximum of 10 people. After 6 people, they pay a surcharge and everything, okay?
Other board member questions? Well, if not, thank you. Please stick around. I'm sure there will be some questions from the public here for you. And with that, we'll open
Thank you.
the public hearing portion of this and ask that anyone who wishes to speak to this, approach the podium. Give us your name and your address, and a reminder from back at the beginning of this, let's try not to be too repetitious with our comments.
Well, I live very, I'm sorry, Shannon Craig. I live at 8609 East Work Hollow. Right close to it. And if you want to look at these, I didn't have a slide, but if you look at their lights, they are so bright and retail like that our animals are not coming around. And it's very frustrating because I love our animals. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't have all the pictures, but I've had deer in my front yard. I've had, well, of course, possums and skunks and I didn't get all my pictures done. But, and if you'll notice, looking down the street, they're the only ones that have the bright lights like a retail store. And it really is frustrating. Also, we have no parking at a certain time. And if they have more than 2 cars, they're not, unless they can use their garage, they're only supposed to have, well, these are animals too, 2 cars in their driveway at one point. So if they have, and it's a 4, I live in a 2-bedroom house, right, 2 doors down. And I've noticed that we haven't had our animals coming to my front yard. We still have bunny rabbits, so that's good. I forgot to take pictures of them. But because of their bright lights, I did put a message on their door to ask them to change their lighting on their porch because it's so bright. It's like a retail store. Also, we're next to Forest Hills, which brings us here, coyotes.
30
skunks.
seconds.
What?
I was giving you 30 seconds.
Okay, and I don't want my property to go down. One, and of course, I don't want any disturbance. I'm trying to think, what else? I can't think, I didn't bring my neighbors, but anyway, I'm sure it will come up. So, any questions? No,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Monty Shaw. I am the president of the Brook Hollow Neighborhood Association, and I live at 8310 East Stone Ridge in Brook Hollow. I am here to address case number CON 2024-00278. The covenants that were provided to the current owners by the auction company when the house sold specify residence shall mean a building erected and maintained in conformance with the requirement of these covenants for private residential purposes and designed for occupancy by a single family. A short-term rental does not conform to this covenant. In addition, the covenants state no activity which may or become an annoyance or a nuisance to the neighborhood shall be carried on upon any building site or in any residence. In the DAP2 meeting packet, it said that this is currently an Airbnb, which I do not believe it is. It was owned by George Puckett, who passed away on August 6, 2022. His children had an estate sale in April of 2024 and then put the home up for auction in June of 2024. It sold for $313,500. The property then went through extensive remodeling period. To my knowledge, there are no Airbnbs in Brook Hollow. A study by Dan O'Brien, Associate Professor of Public Policy and Urban Affairs, showed an increase in crime rates, primarily because highly transient housing pokes holes in the social fabric of the neighborhood. This study is dated July 14, 2021. An article dated September 1, 2021 in the journal Science Direct titled Cities, Volume 116 by Eric Joseph Van Holm looked at 3 different cities. This study found that property crimes increased due to STRs. And these are things that I'm addressing are points that are primarily in the golden factors, which you are talking about. Let's see. Homes surrounding a short-term rental take longer to sell. Who wants to live by a short-term rental? Short-term rentals mean neighborhoods have a revolving door of strangers. You don't know who your neighbor is. This is especially troubling to homeowners with small children. Now, why short-term rentals can raise the value of surrounding homes in lower value neighborhoods, Brook Hollow homes typically sell for $350,000 to $550,000. The majority of homes sold within the last 3 years in Brook Hollow sold for more than the asking price in a matter of days. Brook Hollow is not a lower value neighborhood, and an STR would decrease the value of homes in the neighborhood. In closing, Brook Hollow is a desirable, quiet area to live in. It is a neighborhood of 248 homes located north of Douglas, south of Central, and east of Rock Road. We only have 2 streets that go all the way through the neighborhood going north-south, and only 2 streets that go all the way through the neighborhood going east-west. As you could see from the diagram, most streets are used going east-west. We have a neighborhood association that maintains the common areas of Brook Hollow, and we have an annual neighborhood cleanup for the past 28 years and counting. Brook Hollow neighbors take pride in their homes and maintain them to a high standard. Allowing the conditional permit is something we universally oppose and would appreciate the DAP2 board supporting our position with your recommendation to the MAPC. Could I see a hand of all Brook Hollow residents who oppose the conditional use permit? Okay, how about all the hands of people that would like to see the short-term rental in Brook Hollow? Thank you for your time, and thank you for volunteering for this board. Thank you. Let's go forward.
Your name, sir, once again?
Right.
Brad? Yes. My name is Dwayne Kozolka. I live on Brook Hollow Lane. Yeah, my name is Dwayne Kozolka. I live on Brook Hollow Lane.
Turned on, it's not working.
Okay, I'll just talk really loud. K-O, S is in Sam, Z is in zebra, A-L-K-A. 8240 East Brook Hollow. I have a question for the good gentleman here. If 100% of the abutters don't want this, if 100% of the residents in Brook Hollow don't want this, why would your committee push it forward? The community doesn't want it.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
They could have had a chance to buy it.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Nobody steps to the plate. Other people.
Excuse me, this
Please,
gentleman's
please,
talking
please.
right now.
He has the podium, he's asking questions, staff. I'd ask staff to.
Sure.
respond.
We, we're kind of beholden to take a look at the community plans, and the one that we take a look at the most is the 2035. Let me get to it so I don't misspeak. The community investments plan, which includes the 2035 future growth mindset. And so this document was, created, passed by the city back in 2015, I believe. And so at that time, the recommended uses for that area were residential. And like I said, when we decided, short-term rentals, residential, commercial, there was discussion. I mean, it's kind of an either or, and the department decided to go with residential. So with it being appropriate for residential, we feel that that's an appropriate use for that area. We understand that the neighbors aren't pleased. We cannot make our decision based off of just the neighborhood feedback. We have the other 7 zoning factors to consider, and so that's kind of where we come from.
So you redefined the definition of residential to accommodate a commercial enterprise?
If you believe that, that's fine.
Excuse me, the governing body, the city council expanded that. The staff simply has to follow what the council put in place. As he explained earlier, that this is a 2-stage thing, and all the people that staff originally notified about this, if all or a majority of them had been in favor of it, it would have been handled administratively and we wouldn't even be here tonight. Because the neighbors said, no, we don't want that. Now the applicant has to go through this public hearing process, not once tonight, but twice with the planning commission on Thursday. And then it has to go to the city council. So it becomes very granular, very particular, and there are a whole lot of hoops to jump through. So it's a 2-stage thing, and the governing body put lots of buttons in place to make sure that you all have your input. This is part of the process tonight. And it's certainly a non-binding vote that this board will have. But it's not meant to do something to you. And in fact, it's meant to attempt to strike a balance between the individual and the group.
Okay,
And that's what we're talking about tonight.
and I just have one question for the applicants then. You said you have cameras and you said you have noise sensors at this home. Who monitors those? And if there are exceedances, how quickly and who is going to address those situations?
So we call the person that rents, we have their cell phone, and we make sure. If they don't do that, we physically will drive over there, knock on the door, and they will evict them, but none of that's ever happened in our lifetime.
Okay, well, just because it's never happened doesn't mean it won't. How far do you have to drive to get there to knock on the door?
A phone call is faster than driving.
Okay, but if they don't respond to your phone call,
That has never happened the case.
10 minutes, so you're practically in the neighborhood. Well, that's more like 45 minutes then.
Right? Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, first of all, Monty, I'm sorry. I'm Ann Groholsky. I live in the Brook Hollow.
Sorry, ma'am. Can you spell your last
Ann
name?
Groholsky, GROCHOLSKI. I'm at 8530 East Overbrook Street in Wichita. First of all, Monty touched on most of the things that I have in my letter. But all due respect, our neighborhood is a well-established, well taken care of neighborhood. When our homes in our neighborhood sell, they are revamped and brought up to very nice standards. So all due respect, don't act like you're saving our neighborhood by coming to it remodeling, because this house was in poor shape from a man that died and left this home to be restored by someone else. We have young children that walk from Independence home. We have children that walk from Capon home. We have children that are in the front yards playing, okay? We have a tremendous amount of traffic that goes down Longford. We get out and walk. You're lucky not to get run over already with some of the traffic that comes through our neighborhood. All due respect, I know your address. I know you live in a multi-million-dollar home. You would not want this next to your house. This will affect our resale value. Who on this panel would want a rental next door? I don't. I'm passionate about it because I love Brook Hollow. We've lived there 12 years. We have a wonderful neighborhood. This is a money-making enterprise that's coming in. Like I said, Monty hit on so much of what's going on in our neighborhood. Please listen to those of us that live there. Please listen to those of us that want our children and our grandchildren to be safe in a neighborhood that's established.
30 seconds.
Also, it opens it up to so much more happening. Any of us could sell our house or decide that we're going to turn it into a rental. Like I said, people in the neighborhood, we don't want rentals. We don't want Airbnbs. So don't feel like you're saving our neighborhood by coming in, please. Thank you.
Ready? Catherine Jansen. Catherin. Keep typing. Jansen, Janzen, 8420 East Overbrook. So I'm not one of the contiguous or abutting neighbors, but I have a vested interest. And I want to take point, first off, thank you to Brad. I think I'm going to talk to you today. Appreciate the help today. The Community Investments Plan, the CUBS plan, defines residential as areas that reflect the full diversity of residential development densities and types typically found in a large urban municipality. The range of housing densities and types includes, but is not limited to, single-family detached homes, semi-detached homes, zero lot line units, patio homes, duplexes, townhouses, apartments, and multifamily units, condominiums, mobile home parks, and special residential accommodation for the elderly, parentheses, assisted living, congregate care, and nursing homes, in parentheses. Elementary and middle schools, churches, playgrounds, small parks, and other similar residential serving uses are located in these areas. So the city council, or the city planning commission, has decided that residential, which in Brook Hollow, since at least 1970, and if not before, by covenant, which the planning commission chooses to ignore, our existing legal covenants that are part of our purchase documentation provided by our title company. And the Brook Hollow definition for this property in the covenant is residence shall mean a building erected and maintained in conformance with the requirements of these covenants for private resident, I got all snotty there, private residential purposes and designed for occupancy by a single family. It shall not mean any flat, apartment, multifamily dwelling, or duplex, even though intended for residential purposes. So essentially, the planning commission has decided
30 seconds.
that our covenant, which is what I bought my house under. I bought my house and I paid a stupendously stupid, not just stupid, stupendously stupid premium to live in a house of residential, single-family neighbors. I paid a supremely stupendously stupid amount of property tax to do the same. I would not buy, not just next to an Airbnb or short-term rental, I wouldn't buy on the same block, and I wouldn't buy on the block behind. Because I don't want, I think the Dow and Lee are absolutely right. I think they have great reviews on Airbnb. I went out and looked at your reviews. They're great. They have nice properties. But that house was taken out of our neighborhood. In my street, we have multiple families who have taken houses that needed to be refurbished after older people have died. I bought in the state property. And they are being bought by people much younger than me, having families, having babies, bringing their families up, keeping our neighborhood active, and keeping the value in it. We want to be inclusive. I'd love to live next to Jenny and Michael, but I don't want to live next to a house that's been taken out of the neighborhood. The people who will be in that house will never be part of our neighborhood. And I want to be in a neighborhood. I want to be with a neighborhood. I want to be the neighborhood. Thank you. I'm gonna help somebody. Do you mind for a moment?
No, go ahead.
I think English as a first language is a little bit of a question. So,
My English is not well. I can talk to about few words in here. I live in the 8601,
Name
the
and address.
Bocalo, and the next is with the next is the house from the business. Next door. And I imagine those people come over all is the hotel people come in hotel by hotel. And then I don't know what they get to come over. I just that imagine they will be bring the insect like the human, bring the cockroach, bed bug, all come over. And then we are in the Bocalo. I live in there 1975 since to now. My neighbors are all nice, peaceful. Everyone is nice to me. And I don't like to see other people coming in, scare me. And I live in there and I by myself. Right now, I'm scared of other people around there. So I can tell you.
may I have your name, please, ma'am?
Teresa, I've got it, I'm getting it.
Oh, she's fine, man. Oh, thank you. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
concern is you're afraid of people coming in, they're loud and they scare you, and I've been there for a long
I
time.
don't want to see another
But that's,
danger people coming because I see my neighbor every day, everybody is the nice faces. I don't like it, that kind of, the other kind of people, I know that.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll make mine brief. I'm Jim. Yep.
We would be lost without Teresa.
Yay. Good job. Thank you. Okay, all right, sorry, Jim.
My name is Jim Groholski, and you've got, yes, you've got this. You want me to spell it? Grochoolski. I live at 8530 East Overbrook. Right? We have been in our house for 12, going on 13 years. And as mentioned before, Overbrook is part of Brook Hollow. It is a wonderful, quiet, safe community. Now, to comment on the planning commission person's thing about 2035, growing Wichita. I'm all about that, but it is well documented, as Monty had mentioned in a couple articles, and I'm gonna give you one of those articles, all right? On studying Airbnbs and the impact on crime rate. Crime rate goes up with Airbnbs, no offense to those who own and do a great job. But it is a given fact with all the research that crime rates do go up. And planning commissions have a responsibility not to increase crime in their 2035 outlook, but to decrease crime. We moved to our neighborhood because it is safe. It's a social network. All right, everybody knows people. We watch out for and manage our own crime. We don't need short-term renters. So everything else has been said, so I just want you to know and want you to know with the planning commission. Your plan is not to increase crime in Wichita. If it is, you guys need another job. So. Sir, can we put that, have that placed in the minutes? Thank you. Is there anything else there, Teresa? All right, who would like to speak next? Yes.
Hey, I'm Steve Zuis, Z-U-I-S-S. I'm one of the adjoining property owners, so maybe I can provide some perspective. Z-U-I-S-S, 8510 East Brentmore, directly behind the property. It's you got all the information you need before I start my rant. So, George dies, he was a great guy. We've lived there for about 10 years. And so that property is going to go to somebody else, and it was up for bid. These people bought it. They outbid the other people. There was going to be somebody else buy the property. They were going to fix it up. And so, there's no doubt about that. As far as Airbnb, people have different concepts what a bed and breakfast is. This is not a bed and breakfast managed by an on-site resident person. They will never be there. Never seen them there. They're right behind the place. Yes, they leave the lights on all night. Okay, that's what some people do. I haven't seen security cameras. I don't know about these smoke alarm or whatever the noise alarm is. I don't know who to call. I don't have your phone number. You didn't come around and say, hey, if you have any problems, let us know. I've never seen them there, right? I do know when they fixed the place up, they had some painters come by, and there's still a gallon of white paint in the street, never got cleaned up right. When they had some people trim the tree, they dropped a limb right on the shed, knocked a hole in the roof. Did they fix it? No. So, they may be very responsible. That's fine, but my experience is otherwise. The fence between me and them is very short. I'm gonna see everything that goes on. I don't know where the security cameras are aimed at me or what. But I will know what goes on there, right? Not a damn thing I'm gonna be able to do about it, right? I'll see everything. So when, when the application first came out in December, I went around and I said, hey, they're sending this out over the Christmas holidays to try to avoid any possible people calling in or writing protest letters, right? That was my opinion. They were doing it over the holiday to avoid, hey, people are at holiday rush. They don't really want any input, right? That's the best time of the year to do it. So we went around, we said, contacted all 8 neighbors. They said, we got to do something about this now. And so we got 8 for 8, right? 8 for 8. So I thought it was done, right? I thought we'd crossed the finish line. They said, no, need to come back here. I said, okay, that's fine. Very gratified to see everybody here and expressing your opinions. Very glad to see it. And so maybe we have another hurdle to cross. Maybe we now have crossed the hurdle of this recommendation. That seems very severe, like a very big hurdle, but here we are, right? So in closing, I'd like to ask that you change that recommendation respectfully, based on the input of all 8 adjoining property owners. You said 7, but unanimous as far as I know, right? I ask that you change it and stop this process as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Snyder. I reside at 8701 Eastbrook Hollow Lane. And now I understand that if this is approved by the Metropolitan Planning Group, then there is a protest that can be filed. I will also, I checked with and they've been very helpful, the people in your office, sir, in answering my questions. The 7 or 8 folks that opposed it, they may sign a protest petition, but the Metropolitan Planning Authority will not accept protest petitions until their meeting. And after their meeting, and only the day after their meeting, can you file a protest petition. Now, if you have 7 or 8 people that signed an objection or a protest petition to that initial administrative proceeding, you're gonna need a lot more. Because now it expands to a 200-foot radius around that property. And I counted approximately 30 residences that may qualify. And you have to get 20% of them. So you're gonna have to get another 15 or so signing again to get it considered by the city council. And the result of getting enough petitions by 20% of the folks that live within a 200-foot radius of that property, what you have to do is get those numbers of petitions signed and submitted to the Metropolitan Planning Authority. And then it becomes a super majority vote. Then 6 out of the 7 city council people have to approve it. So our best shot is going to be doing it that way. And, you know, I mean, if you look at it, they've already approved it. So I mean, it's like the cart before the horse, it seems sometimes. We wait until after the date of the hearing, and then you can file a protest. I don't quite understand that, but I understand that's the procedure.
Let me give you a little clarification there. The decision isn't made by the planning commission. The decision is made by the governing body. So nothing is done until the governing body votes on it. But the planning commission is the last, it starts with staff doing their research and making a recommendation. It goes to the advisory board here to hear you all and to make comments and a recommendation on their recommendation.
Right.
All right. And then it goes to the planning commission, who are going to do essentially the same thing we're doing here tonight.
Right.
And they're gonna hold a public hearing. And While our recommendation to the city council is a soft citizens recommendation, the planning commission's recommendation is gonna be a little bit harder, a little bit more solid recommendation, but it's still only a recommendation. The governing body can accept the planning commission recommendation, they can accept it and modify it, or it can send it back.
Do you mind if I chime in? So we've only had two other cases that have gone to this level. One was approved by the planning commission and approved by the city council. One was denied by the planning commission and by the city council. So one for one in a small sample size right now, so.
Yeah, we certainly encourage you to go to the planning commission and then, if you don't get a recommendation that they, that you want, you take it to the city council.
And I will congratulate the planning commission people. I've talked to, I think I talked to you once. And they brought out the original denial and gave me a copy. I mean, I have no problems. I have no problems with. Excuse me, can I have a little leeway? Because
I paused it every time anyone else
Okay,
talked, I
great.
pause.
So basically, we have to renew our protest petitions if you want to defeat this, or at least have a chance to. Okay, thank you.
And thank you for coming and talking about the process, because the process really matters.
It
Thank you.
is complicated.
It is. It's
And
very
as a,
confusing.
as a retired lawyer, I had a hard time understanding.
Process question. It's a short process question on.
Come on up.
The planning commission meeting, that's just like tonight, but if we won't be there, are they gonna get tonight's comments?
I don't know that they'll get tonight's
I
comments
think
by then.
Our
but
comments go to
you can
city council.
Send comments
So
to your city planner, and you can send comments, well, to the planning department.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking.
So all of the comments that have been submitted previously, the commissioners will see that. If you have any, you need to get them in before Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And every single comment that you send in through email, mail, hand delivered, whatever the case may be, we make sure that those planning commissioners see those.
Welcome. I guess it's does work, right? No? So my name is Paul O'Neill. And I live at 8539 Brentwood. So, the funny thing about it is, my house could be affected more than any other house because it's the exact same street address. And that is a U-turn, and I've had, the postal service has made that mistake many times, so. Just something to think about when you're deciding to approve this or not. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes,
I have one, I'm sorry.
okay.
Hi, my name is Amy Kozolka, Koszalka. I live at 8240 East Brook Hollow. And I guess I just want to appeal to you guys because we are in a housing crisis. We don't have enough single family homes. We can't afford to let this one go. We really can't. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yep.
Jim, for hosting again, just one last couple of comments if I can. Do I need to give my address again, 8530 East Overbrook Street? Go ahead. Number one, it's nothing against the applicants, to be honest with you. It's not about just one Airbnb. It's about other Airbnbs that could come into our neighborhood and ruin our property values and destroy our social fabric, okay? And I'm on an advisory board as well. I know the responsibility. It's not just like, oh, well, somebody else got to make a decision. No. You know, with mental health advisory board, this is an important decision you all have to make. And I hope you take this seriously because we do not want this in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Mark Morrison. Okay. You get named Mark Morrison. At 8424 East Limerick. I've lived in Brook Hollow for 27 years now. It is a fantastic neighborhood. There are a few rentals that have caused problems, long-term rentals. One across the street from me, there's great folks there now. I would say, please. Why would we even consider making a change to a covenant on a property? You know, it was there. My question is, how is it going to help Brook Hollow? I haven't heard anything that says it will. We've all heard a lot of things that say it won't. My question is to the board members. Can I see a show of hands, which of you would like to see an Airbnb less than a block from your neighborhood or from your house?
Sorry.
I still want the answer.
I don't know is my answer.
You don't know, really?
I have rentals fairly close to my house. They're, when you good renters, you don't have a problem.
That's, I have a great renter across the street from me. They're wonderful people. They've been there for 2 years now. You know, that's the neighborhood. Is people move in, they stay. They don't stay for 2 weeks.
I know this, if I did have an Airbnb, I want them to run it.
That could be, but. Like I said, nothing against you. It's the neighborhood. We're trying to preserve it. And I'm very disappointed that y'all can't weigh in.
We weigh in.
When we vote. Yeah, you'll hear it. You'll hear the
You'll
vote.
hear what we have to.
Yeah.
What we think, what we have to say. Would anyone else like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Joe Tigert, Tigert, 8620 East Bremen. Street sometimes not street. So quick question. So I'm just trying to clearly understand. I'm not a retired lawyer. So we need 15 people to sign up. How do we know who qualifies for that 200 feet from the place?
I can try to answer that. It is complicated, and I will admit that I came from somewhere else about 1.5 years ago. Took me a while to understand it, so bear with me. So you've got the subject site, the property that's asking for the short-term rental. And this is all Kansas state law. This is not Wichita, code, or this is from the state. When a case is heard by the planning commission, so you've got the property, right? And then you've got a 200-foot perimeter around that property.
How many houses is that roughly?
I don't know, and it doesn't really matter because what happens is.
It depends. If you have small lots, there could be 4 houses within.
Right.
That just, if you have a narrow street.
Actually, can I use the board to kind of illustrate? Because that will actually kind of help me. A drawing helps. Because it is a complicated.
Letters.
I'm sorry.
Did the affected properties get letters?
Let me get one here.
Anyone within that 200-foot perimeter. Anybody within that 200-foot perimeter should have gotten a letter. Yeah, so. If I'm gonna get over here.
You're talking property lines?
Yes.
You're talking property lines, is that
Yeah.
correct?
So bear with me. I can answer questions, but I'm gonna try to explain fairly succinctly. So say you have the subject property, right? Then you've got a 200-foot perimeter. Okay, you got streets, you got roads. Let's just say you've got houses like this. Right. Okay, so all these are properties, you've got streets and roads and everything. So you've got this 200-foot property or 200-foot perimeter, you've got houses that continue outside of that, right? Properties. Right. So. This is a certain square footage, let's just say it's 100 square feet, just to be easy, okay? You take out the roads and streets and stuff like that, so you're left with 50 square feet, just for simplicity's sake. What you have to have is 20% of this property. So it's not houses, it's property within that circle. Okay? So whatever 20% is 10 square feet of property within that circle has to be accounted for. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's complicated, like I
So
said.
they all got a letter.
Everybody within this 200 foot perimeter should have gotten a letter.
The homeowners, the
No,
property owners,
Property
owners. Yeah.
property owner.
The rentee.
20% of them, 20% say we wanna.
So that's the protest. So after the planning commission, if we receive 20% of this land area without the streets and everything. If we get 20% of that land area, obviously it's gonna be more than 120. Then it's gonna be a super majority at the city council meeting. So that makes it where 6 out of the 7 commission or city council members have to say, yes, we want to approve the short-term rental. Normally, it's just 4 out of 7, it's just the majority. But when this happens, they have to go to 6 out of 7.
So 6 have to approve it?
Yes,
Oh,
they can just have
We
a
just need 2 to
simple
7.
majority to say no.
okay.
So if 4 out of 7 say no, it's denied. Does that make sense to everybody?
Okay,
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
Could I ask Brad a question while he's up there? In the 12 years I've been reading these things, and I'm a little embarrassed that I have this question. I've never heard the phrase, HOA covenant being observed by the planning commission. How does that fit in?
So HOA covenant or HOAs in any kind of private covenant are just that, they're private. The city does not recognize them.
Really?
We basically, if a covenant is broken, it's up to an HOA or a citizen to enact.
Sorry, if
some
you
sort
don't mind, could you?
of- Enact some
hard to
sort
hear.
of enforcement that could possibly lead to legal action, but the city, nowhere in the US does the city.
Really? All right, thank you.
First, think of it this way. A covenant is a contract. That's what it is. It's a contract between the people who enter into that covenant. But the contract is something that can only be enforced by the members of the covenant on one another. And the only way to do that ultimately is through a civil lawsuit.
Or fines? Yeah.
State law in the state of Kansas, and I believe it's probably in every state, trumps your HOA covenants. So the state, the city or the state can literally say that someone in your covenant community can do something that contractually your covenants say they can't do. Not just anything, anywhere, all the time. And the easiest example is many covenants in Wichita do not allow for solar panels on houses. Tough. If someone even if you have a covenant that says you can't have solar panels, yes, you can. Because state law trumps covenants and allows for solar panels. Please come up.
I'm sorry, I just have a question for Brad about the process. So we are not in that.
Sure.
Can we still file a petition
So
because it
yes.
affects us?
So anybody else-
Slippery slope?
Sure, so anybody in the whole county can submit a protest. What one protest, even if it's on the northwest side, does is that, so again, this is very complicated, and I'll try to break it down. If the planning commission makes a recommendation and the district advisory board makes a recommendation, and they're the same, then it goes to a consent agenda for the city council. They don't even hear it, okay? So what the protest does is if you get one protest, even if it's 5 miles away, it forces the governing body, whether it's the city council or the board of county commissioners in the county's case, to hear that case.
Okay.
And then if you get the 20% threshold, that makes them have to have the 6 out of 7. Does that make sense to
Thank you.
everybody?
Thank you.
It's complicated.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's time that we bring the discussion back to the board. Board, questions, comments, motions?
Might have one question to Mr. Lee.
To the applicant.
To the applicant?
Is that,
Yeah, please.
Mr. Lee, my question would be, prior to you buying the property, had you checked to see what the zoning, the SF5, what the zoning was at that time when you bought the property?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Well,
We bring it back to the.
we brought it back here. Other comments or questions from the board?
So I appreciate somebody mentioning the golden rules earlier, and if you don't know what the golden rules are, that means that we have 9 factors that we have to take into account when we make a recommendation, very similar to how planning. Thank you. Your president has a copy of the golden, rules, but I said in the beginning of this, I'm a big fan of civic engagement, and I really appreciate all of you coming here.
Yes, very good.
Unfortunately, for this, I can't weigh all of your comments equally with this. We have to weigh all 9 factors. We took an oath that we would do that. So whatever happens tonight, I just want you to know your comments have not gone unheard. We have a lot of difficult cases that we listen to, but I promise you that we do our duty and we take our oath very seriously to make sure that we are following the golden rules of zoning and planning. My question again for Brad is just to clarify for everyone that's here. When things go to city council, we're done, planning is done. Everyone that's in that protest area has been notified and had a chance to petition. What happens if city council gets 100% of the protest area? Then it goes to 6 out of the 7 city council to override staff's recommendation.
No.
Okay, that's why I'm asking you to clarify.
Yeah, so the protest, in order to get the 6 out of 7, the supermajority vote, it only requires a 20% threshold of that 200-foot perimeter around the property. So, obviously, I have seen some cases that get as high as like 87%. So obviously those cases, the neighbors were extremely passionate about that as well. That does not guarantee a denial. I have seen high percentage cases and protests and they still get approved. So it doesn't guarantee any kind of outcome.
Because
but
that's one factor.
That's one factor, and every board and commission and council is supposed to take all 8 or 9 golden rules into consideration. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, I believe it's time to ask for a motion.
I motion we deny. I don't quite know how to say it. How do you say it? I motion we don't accept the planning's recommendation. How do you say it? How should I say that?
Motion to
Recommend denial.
recommend
Teresa's gonna
denial.
read it.
Okay, that is my motion.
Can you read it again, Teresa?
Motion made by Bruce Gass to deny the application and not accept the planning staff's recommendation. Is that what you want, Bruce?
Yes, that's fine.
Any comments from the board? I sense that Brad wants to interject a technical.
Yeah, so that's fine. We just do need to have some sort of finding from the, if you disagree with one of the golden factors, we need to know which one. you disagreed with and why?
What he means, Bruce, is you look at the green sheet there and
Okay,
you're recommending that the
I don't remember having to do that in the past, but
recommendation be denied based on
Okay.
which of these.
I'm gonna say, it's not in the character of the neighborhood, in my opinion. I also. Too bad you don't vote on me, right? I don't think it's in the suitability of the subject property. Number two, number three. I can't remember the time property, so. In my opinion, it does not have, provide a safety issue in this case, but anyway,
That's fine. That's
that enough?
Fine, yeah.
All right, yeah, plenty.
Motion, read it, of course. Second is opposition or support of the neighborhood resident.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Board members, by other board members?
Tim, let me read it one more time.
Yes.
Motion made by Bruce Gass and seconded by John Baker to deny the application and not accept the planning staff's recommendations to approve the conditions.
I can't support that motion only because there's 9 factors and that's 3, and I don't want to nitpick, but when we've had other housing discussions, it's come down to what is going to be the detriment to the property owner? What is the recommendation of staff? Does this conform to all zoning? And so I have Airbnbs and rentals in my neighborhood, and sometimes I wish I didn't, and sometimes it's not my business. So I'm gonna abstain from this vote, or I'm gonna oppose it. I'm not sure.
Any other comments or statements from board members? Ready to vote? If not, I would ask all those in favor of the motion to raise their hand.
Do we have anybody online?
Oh yeah, you could vote on this one.
Those who are opposed, please raise your hand.
Yeah, we have 4. But the motion passes.
Motion passes. This is not the end of your campaign here.
Right.
All right.
Don't
Thursday
slow down now.
Thursday afternoon, is your next opportunity to have a say in this. And if that recommendation from the planning commission doesn't turn out to be what you are asking for, what you want, then you have the opportunity to file a petition and take it to the governing body. But I want to thank everybody for showing up. It's been a long evening on this issue, and I know the feeling. I've been through this myself, and we really appreciate you coming out. Bruce?
I want to thank the homeowners of the B&B for coming here, being here. Not everybody does that. Appreciate you guys. This was tough. This was your first night. Well, you're welcome. Okay, I just what I thought was best. Oh, what a pain. Yeah. And I hate this homeowners association thing. Why the heck can't the state recognize us? Give us some clap. Oh, okay. Well, that's different. That's weaker.
So I looked at, yeah.
Yeah, this is not always this hard. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, if you change your closing.
And they're able to just.
It's the new guy.
Any adaptive, state council minutes, maybe just have to.
Yes.
Brad, thanks. Hello, how are you?
Whatever the papers I picked up.
All right. Hey, Faith.
Yeah.
Number 4, I got another one in there.
Easier, probably more, yeah, car wash.
But yeah, I hear you. I know. I'm in favor of small business too. This is tough.
Oh, no. I don't always fight that, we don't. I know. I've never heard that we've had a lot of, I learned that. Residents, who's fighting Wesley. So, no, I'm a resident working.
It's pretty cold in here now.
But yeah, I've never had my, I need to go find, I think I need to go. Yeah, I'm just gonna go sit on the floor. Yeah, you're. Teresa? Yes. Can I sit on the floor? Okay.
It's turned back up.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
Let's
It's cold in here now.
let's move on to our next zoning, case. This is, case number ZON 2025 dash quadruple 03 slash CON 2025 dash triple 024. Is a zoning and both a request for a change of zoning and a conditional use permit. I'm gonna turn this over to Brad to go into the details on that.
Yes, thank you. Once again, Brad Etherly for the planning department. Just for the record, this is case zone 2025-00003. May have added another 0 in there, slash con 2025-00024. And for this case, the applicant is requesting 2 items. One is a zone change from GO, general office, to LC, limited commercial. And then also a conditional use to permit a car wash within 200 feet of residential zoning. And I'll get into why both of those are being requested in a minute. As far as the site goes, it's located on the southwest corner of the US 54-400 highway and South 143rd Street East. And the subject site is roughly 2.826 acres and is currently undeveloped. The LC district generally permits more uses than the GO district. As far as site development standards, there will be no changes to the minimum lot area, minimum lot width, front setback, rear setback, or interior side setback. However, should the zone change request be approved, there would be an increase in allowable building height. In the GO, they allow 60 feet, and the LC district, they allow up to 80 feet. And those are subject to compatibility height standards that are near residential zoning. This property would need to follow the criteria set forth by the Wichita Landscape Ordinance, if it were approved, and that includes landscape street yards along the arterial street and landscape buffers abutting residential zoning. So the UZC, Unified Zoning, requires a conditional use in the limited commercial district when a proposed car wash is within 200 feet of residential zoning. And so since this site abuts SF5 single family residential on the south and west property lines, that conditional use is needed. Also, SF20 is located in the east. It's located to the east across South 143rd Street East. That's a single family residential zoning in the county jurisdiction. All other use regulations found in the Unified Zoning Code would apply also should it be approved. And those regulations are listed in the staff report as an attachment. If you can scroll down to the site plan. do yeah, right there, perfect. You can see that, the site plan has patrons to the car wash entering from the east off of South 143rd Street. And then looping around the north part of the lot to access the car wash, which is located on the southern portion of the lot. And then vacuum bays are located kind of in the middle of the lot. And then to exit the car wash, with including the blowers, those face South 143rd Street East. So staff does feel like noise generating activities are generally buffered by the nearby, generally buffered from the nearby residential uses. Should the zone change and conditional use request be approved, the subject site shall implement screening on the west and south property lines where it butts or is across the street from residential zoning. And then per the landscape ordinance, the applicant should also install buffer trees on, well, I think I already said that. I may have said that twice in the report. As far as the zoning goes, if you can scroll down to that. Yep. You can see that currently it is zone GO. It is abutting the SF5 district to the south, and then the SF20 district to the east, and then limited commercial to the north over the highway, and then to the northeast, catty corner from the highway. As far as a little bit of property history, this subject site was platted as part of the Springdale Lakes Office Park in 1983. In 1981, a zone change request from, at the time, it was considered AA one family dwelling district to BB office district was approved. Those zone districts do not, are not still in use as we know them now. As far as public services go, the property is accessing South 143rd based off the site plan, which is a 5-lane arterial street with no sidewalks on either side. 3 of those lanes are dedicated turn lanes for the controlled intersection there. Municipal services already serve the site, and Wichita Transit does not provide regular bus service to that site. If we can go to the future growth map. Right there. The requested zoning is in conformance with the community investments plan. The 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map identifies the area to be designated for residential and employment mix. A car wash that would be an appropriate use at the intersection of an arterial street and a US highway. The required screening and landscaping are designed to mitigate possible negative impacts, such as noise and light pollution. And the nearby single-family residences are also separated by the drainage ponds and an arterial street. We can go to the site pics. You may have scrolled down. Okay, yeah, you can go back up, sorry. It was a very busy section to try to get site pics, so I didn't get great ones, but the first one is looking west into the site to a row of trees that are there. Looking east away from the site to the single family 20 residential zoning district, and then looking south down 143rd, and then kind of got a picture of what it looks like through the trees to the drainage pond and the neighbors beyond that. Hard to see, but wanted to try to get something. And then the next page. This is looking kind of north away from the site. Again, I didn't want to put myself in too much harm's way, so not the greatest picture, but then also looking northeast at the Quick Trip. And then lastly, this one is provided by Google because I wasn't gonna cross the highway, but that's looking south into the site. Staff does recommend approval of both the zone change and the conditional use, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. These again are based off the golden factors. I will let you know that we have received at this point 5 emails, written communication from neighbors that are opposed to the request. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Any questions from board members?
Brad, which way will the open door of this car wash face?
So there will be two open doors, I guess, in theory. If you can go back to the site plan, Teresa, maybe I think it's gonna be one more, yeah. So they'll come in off of 143rd off the east, go up around to the north and circle back around, heading east, and they'll enter the car wash building there, and then the exit will be going towards 143rd.
So the actual car wash is that small
Yes,
shaded area, right?
the rectangle on the south side, yeah.
And what requirements do they have to absorb the sounds from that?
There aren't any requirements to absorb the sound, although there are compatibility noise standards that would be in place. So if we get a lot of complaints about this code, but it is what it is. If anybody can hear noise from the site, enforcement is an option. What that looks like in real life is tough, but you could complain to zoning enforcement. You could contact the local PD to come out and take a look at it. But those are in place as kind of mitigating factors to help reduce the noise.
Brad, I have a question about the Wichita sign code change, which going from general office to limited commercial, it's gonna be different ordinance governing. So just to clarify, if the conditional use is approved and the zone change is approved, will they be able to have taller, brighter, more signs moving to limited commercial, or am I wrong?
Sure, so they would be allowed different signage, and I am not a sign code expert.
I'm not either.
I used to be in my previous place of employment, and I didn't want to be there. But I do have a paragraph about that. I'll just read. The ground or pole signs in the general office district are limited to 32 square feet on a single tenant zoning lot. However, signs in the LC district are limited in total area to 20% of each tenant space, which in this case would be one. Elevation with no sign exceeding 400 square feet. And then that there should be no more than 3 signs for each tenant or business on the building elevation. And then illuminated offsite signs are permitted in the LC district. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was kind of the best kind of synopsis that we could kind of
The
get.
maximum height then is.
I don't have that knowledge in my head right now. I'm gonna kind of throw it out as a 20-foot height, but I'm not for sure.
I'm gonna add a twist to this sign height. And that I'm sure everybody here knows that 143rd Street is going to see massive change and improvements in the next few years. And you probably also know that US 400 is gonna become an even bigger public works project. And it's gonna be a flyover interchange at 143rd. There's a lot of good to that, but there's also gonna be elevated noise, elevated light. And the reason they're building this is traffic is increasing, going to the east. So you know all of that, and that's gonna dictate also how high those signs
Oh,
go.
yeah.
I asked.
Yeah.
Because they have to be seen from the overpass, and it's 20-foot. You know, I'm not pro or con this project, but we need to understand what we're getting into here on this height. And we also need to understand it's gonna be a very large increase in the traffic at this interchange going forward. This project is so big, the quick trip is gonna go away. The land is being taken. So that's a little bit broader context within which we're dealing with this car wash.
Well, I asked because I live at Kellogg and Woodlawn and nobody advocated for our neighborhood, and now we have a raised highway and like 7 car lot signs that just shine in all our windows. So I'm always curious about how high the signs can be.
Yeah, I apologize for not having an answer for that.
And
But, yeah.
signage may not be an issue, given all the lighting at that interchange. It could be tangential, but I want to understand that even if the signs are big and they go high, there's gonna be an enormous amount of light and noise at this intersection. Correct.
It also means that the sound is going to be bouncing off the concrete walls back
Anything
into
else?
the neighborhood.
Thank you, Brad, for answering. that.
Other questions of Brad?
I have one quick one.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If approved, when did this project expect to be complete? Was it before the highway and street improvement or after?
I would imagine that it would be before. I don't know. I know that the highway improvement, I think, was supposed to be completed by 2026, and that's not gonna happen. I also have understood, I didn't know about I'm fairly new to Wichita. But I didn't know about the highway improvement until about 3 weeks ago. As I understand it, the majority of the highway improvements, if you can call it that, are gonna be to the north. They're not gonna touch the
I have-
south as much.
I have looked at
may
the
not know.
KDOT renderings and site plan for this, and it appears that all of the right of way that needs to come off of this parcel around where this car wash would go is already taken by the state, so that they're not gonna need any more land. The land the state is acquiring for the highway expansion is on the north side of 400 rather than on the south. side.
Well, I ask because if you've ever seen a car wash line.
Oh, yeah.
You would want those improvements to be in place before a business like this went into place. Otherwise, you got those car wash lines backing up normal everyday traffic.
Any other comments?
One
We'll get to you in a moment, sir.
One, I have the kind of follows her comment too, is that, and as that finally gets improved, or even before it gets improved, you know, I live right out in that area, travel the highway of 143rd Kellogg. I mean, has there been traffic studies? You know, I always am told about different things. Well, you gotta have a traffic study. I mean, the traffic is phenomenal. Well, part of the highway improvement is probably gonna make it maybe worse. On 143rd, she made a very good comment, you know, like car washes, a lot of back up traffic so, I mean, I'm not sure where their entrance is gonna actually come and go on 143rd, but that would be a horrific place to get in and out of.
Sure.
Sure.
I can tell you that, first of all, if we look at and I'm not trying to sway anything or anything, but if you take a look at the aerial, you can see how small those cars are compared to the site. It's a very long site, and then if you go to the site plan,
There's
you can
lots
see
of room for
there's-
cars.
Yeah, they pretty much use the entirety of that site, so that's what we call vehicle stacking is more than I've ever seen any other kind of drive-through development anywhere else, so I'm not gonna say that it wouldn't spill out into 143rd. After a big snow, it could, you know.
No, well,
very well
it's
could.
pretty much a mess as it is there, but, and then the other thing was, I'm assuming, I was just kind of looking through, you know, it was approved pending these certain items, blah, blah, but I didn't see anything about, you know, the retention pond there. When we have one of our, big dandy rainfalls, God, what you got? I mean, that gets very level rises, water flow coming across, you know, the little dam that there is there now. You put a lot more concrete, a lot more surface, you know, I would think there would have to be some sort of floodplain, something happening there, right? Maybe it all has to go toward Kellogg, not to full, I mean, that's a problem, flooding it as it is in certain times, but anyway. Just, like I said, I didn't see that on there about, I'm sure to do it.
Sure, and
We have a weakness to
I can-
floodplain review sometimes.
And I can say that if all of this were approved, I don't mean to say when, if it were approved and they submitted a building permit, they would have to go through all the stormwater regulations that any not impervious surface development would require, so.
Because that's a sensitive area anyway down through there with flooding and people that have crosswinds.
The city would not issue a development permit without having a stormwater study and a stormwater plan in place before construction begins. And that plan for talking purposes, it's basically you can't, no matter how much paved area you have, they're not gonna let you create any more runoff within an hour space than you currently have. So that might mean you have to have some sort of detention area that collects your stormwater and lets it off gradually at no quicker a rate than it was before you built the project. And the city of Wichita does that on every development now, residential and commercial.
Yes.
So without having all of the permitted uses for limited commercial, is there, so I'm thinking like the future.
Sure.
So there's no car wash there anymore, they sell it and they want to make it, what are some things that could be there instead?
Sure, it does open up for a large possibility of several commercial. It's not as wide open as general commercial. But it does, and I mean, it's so large that I couldn't possibly have it committed to memory, but you know, restaurants, general retail, things like that. But it would open up the possibility, say the car wash is something that is not viable in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It is still zoned LC. So one thing that that could be a possibility is if you wanted to approve, but you didn't want it to be open up to all sorts of LC operations or uses, you could add a protective overlay as a recommendation to keep it as anything in the GO with car wash.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members of Brad? If not, I would invite,
I get
yes,
one.
Bruce.
I didn't see any restrictions on the hours of use. And there's enough, I'm not saying that car washes are detrimental to hearing, but they are annoying. And I've been in the areas where and I'm all for small business. And I don't understand Wichita's addiction to car washes, but here we are, okay? And so the hours may affect the neighbors to the south and the neighbors to the east. And I just wondered if there should be some, I don't know what the normal hours would be for one of these.
So I can tell you that staff didn't necessarily feel the need to add an hours restriction. I know personally, I've gone out at 8:30 trying to find a car wash and I was mad because it was closed at like 8 o'clock. And so I think for the most part, many of the car washes in the Wichita area, at least these automated ones, are typically closing around 7 or 8. But staff did not, now you as a recommending board can also include a condition that certain hours be kept, so.
Thank you, Brad. Is there someone here representing the applicant? Please give us your name and who you're with and your address.
Absolutely. My name is Kurt Daniels with Cochran Engineering, 8 East Main Street, Winsville, Missouri, 63390 for the record, representing Club Car Wash. I think Brad did a very good explanation, so we've all been here a long time. I'll try not to go into additional information, but if we can get the site plan pulled up and try to answer some of the questions you have. As Brad talked about, I heard stacking, and I think somebody up here said they've never seen this much stacking on a car wash. We represent them all over the United States, and I've never seen this much stacking on a car wash. We have approximately 68 spaces shown. And that does wrap around the north side of the building, down the west side, and all the way into the tunnel, which is the small square block on the south side. For us to see anything stacked further out than that, I don't think there's any possible way. I mean, the owner may love it, but I don't think it ever happened. So, in saying that, so yeah, we do have 68 spaces provided for stacking. Hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 8 to 8 on Sundays. So those are the typical hours of operation. Generally on any noise that's produced from the site would be the blowers, which would be on the east side of the building, which is directly pointing to 143rd Street. So most of any noise there would be absorbed by the car sounds that would go out, and we intentionally line this up so that the blowers actually blow back into the building, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you don't hear anything if you're standing outside of it. You would hear something, but as the noise is projected towards the street to the east, 143rd, most of that sound's going to be observed with the traffic noise that goes up and down 5-lane arterial street. So, other than that, I think detention was a question. The western side, all the way at the west end, we do have detention. We will meet all detention requirements at the time of construction. So basically, we do a preliminary design of that area to ensure that we have applicable space to account for any stormwater on this and do not impede the surrounding area with additional stormwater. And we would meet all code. There was a fairly stringent landscaping code on the south side of this. There's a significant stormwater lake to the south of this site. There has been a requirement for significant landscape on the south side and also the east side facing 1/3. And we've met all applicable code or have no problem meeting those, and I'm showing them on the plan. So in looking at a site like this, what we try to do is follow the future land use plan, what you've done, and that's what we've tried to do here. Northeast of here is a quick trip. The building height is 28 feet 10.5 inches. So that's the highest portion of the building. I know with the limited commercial, it does allow for a higher, but that's not something we seek. This is a typical. If you've seen one Club Car Wash, this is what it's going to look like. So I know many I talked to tonight when they found out I was with Club Car Wash said, "Oh, I have a membership. I have a membership." So I think there was a lot of users there. If there's any questions of the board, if I missed anything else, I could go in on the site, and I think Brad did a very good job of it, and I don't want to belabor any points as it's 8:37 at night.
Any questions for the applicant?
Just what were the hours again?
The hours are Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay,
Sunday would be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? If
And I know I went through that quick, so if you have some.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the public hearing part of it, so. State your name, come on up and get in line.
Where's my lip speaker? I have a little presentation. Okay. My name is Kristen Bogner. I live at 14210 East Lakeview Drive. And to save some time, about 30 of us have gotten in on this presentation to kind of respect your time tonight. So we have a list of all the supporting names on the last slide. And just for reference, my house is just directly across the lake or pond that the car wash would sit on, and a lot of my neighbors are here. You won't be surprised. And we support business development. We just don't think this is the right location for a car wash. We have quite a few reasons listed. The first one is noise. That's been talked about a lot, but the city noise ordinance, the car wash exceeds that decibel level. So we kind of researched that. We know that we wouldn't be standing right next to the car wash, but water actually transmits sound, and we think it's going to throw it right into our yards. And so we're not very happy about that. And now I need my presentation.
That's the Lord.
Yeah. We're very concerned about the ecosystem that our pond system supports. So to the east of the pond that this car wash would sit on is where the stream kind of starts feeding water, and it feeds into a pond system that goes all the way a mile southeast back to Harry. And we looked it up and we researched a little bit about water pollutants that happen from car washes, and there's all kinds of motor oil and dirt and all that stuff gets down into the sediment. And we have such a great natural ecosystem in our ponds. We have all kinds of wildlife. So if you just want to go to the wildlife slide, that's the best one. But we have a bunch of endangered bird species that have been observed. Okay. Noise.
if you look here, when I was talking about the pond system, you can see on the bottom right of that map where those ponds can continue. That line going up and down is 143rd, and they continue all the way. So that any pollutant that got into our water would trickle all the way down and affect a lot of lake system there. Here is pictures of our direct backyard taken by homeowners. And I don't know if this video is gonna play, but these are bobcats we've observed. We see all different kinds of endangered or threatened species. We've listed some there. We've seen bald eagles. That's a pelican that I took a picture of in my backyard. We have turtles, we have fish, we have native plant species. And that's what makes our neighborhood really great. Many of my neighbors have lived in our neighborhood for a decade, and they've also put a lot into taking care. Our HOA takes really good care of our pond system. My neighbors who are sitting here, that in 1993, they acquired some free trees from County Extension and planted them right along that shelter belt that we actually, our homeowners association, see that yellow line, which basically denotes the car wash site. We own everything to the south of that yellow line and then to the west of that yellow line. And they planted 100 trees there in 1993 that now serve as a really nice block for our noise and for some mild pollution. So they've put kind of their blood, sweat, and tears into caring for our pond and our neighborhood. And to see it taken out by yet another car wash, we just think it's a bad use of that land. And here's another map. It's an engineering map we acquired from 2010 that kind of shows. And the other thing is, if this does happen to pass, which would be terribly sad for all of us, we really don't approve of any trees being removed from our property there for sure. We were very worried about the traffic. If you've ever tried to drive out onto Kellogg from 143rd South at about 7:15 in the morning, you can't get out of our neighborhood because there's such a line of cars. There's not room for one car to wait trying to get at that time of day. So we're very concerned about that. My sweet neighbor Diane Howard, she did an unscientific study of another club car wash at 127th and 21st Street. And in 58 minutes, she counted 101 cars. Now, this was on Half Price Tuesday, but if we had 100 cars all day long, I don't think our intersection would sustain it. The only place to turn around that's not a gravel road is the entrance to our neighborhood. Even if our neighbors don't live on the water, they don't want those cars in our neighborhood. We have a very peaceful neighborhood. So again, we're not against a car wash. We're just against the location of the car wash. There's a perfectly good lot right across Kellogg on the northwest corner that's actually and does not butt up to a residential neighborhood. Diane also looked at every single club car wash in Wichita, which I believe is 10 club car washes, 9, 8, something, but none of them butt up to a residential neighborhood like this. So we are asking this board to deny the zoning change to preserve the shelter belt and the pond ecosystem and consider alternative locations, but please listen to the voices of the residents in this neighborhood who would be directly affected in many ways.
Thank you.
Please, sir.
My name's Jeff Quinn. I live a block and a half behind that. There've been some.
Please tell your name.
Jeff Quinn, QUINN. 14210 East Spring Creek Drive. I live 2 blocks off of Kellogg. It's been misrepresented about it being a 5-lane arterial. It is not a 5-lane arterial. It is 1 lane heading south off of Kellogg. There are 2 left turn lanes going north of 100, going in the direction of north to turn onto Kellogg. And then there are 2 other lanes going north. One is a right-hand lane. The other one is the through street that goes north by the Quick Trip. Those lanes end probably 100 feet off of Kellogg. They don't go all the way down 143rd. 127th Street was closed when they developed Kellogg. And they built Southeast High School down on Pawnee and 127th. So now we get all the traffic in the morning. It comes down 143rd to Pawnee to the high school, and Greenwich gets it down to Pawnee. So we have, if you try to get out of the neighborhood, anywhere from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, you'll go through 7 or 8 light changes before you get through that intersection. It's a high traveled area. We have decades old cottonwood trees along that road there that provide wildlife refuge. It's a wind barrier, it's a pollution barrier, it's a noise barrier. That picture you showed up here of the footprint, that extends into the watershed. That's part of the 4 Mile Creek watershed, by the way, too. I want to know if there's been any ecological studies done, okay? You're gonna kill off all that stuff there. You just also will take and dramatically decrease our property values. I've been there over 25 years. I moved out there because of what the amenities were and the privacy and the quietness. We're not gonna have that. And if that's a flyover, we're gonna have 25 or 40-foot light poles shining light in the whole area. Now, I find it very interesting that we got our property valuation notices a couple of weeks ago. And all of a sudden now we're having this meeting here to discuss changing and allowing a commercial car wash to be built there. And, you know,
Sorry, 30 seconds.
all right, sorry. Anyways, I'm done. I'm fed up with this process and I am totally against it 100%. And if you all want to come up and buy my house for what the property valuation I got 2 weeks ago, feel free. I'll put the money in a pillowcase and I'll be gone in 30 days. I'm serious. Because I'm not happy.
Thank you. My name is Ben Shortino, and I have the misfortune of living at 14310 East Lakeview Drive. I'm gonna be looking right at that car wash.
Yeah.
One thing that, well, first of all, and it's just my opinion only, this doesn't seem like a prime place to put a car wash. Those beautiful, tall, noise deadening, light obscuring trees that are on the border of our lake are gonna be cut down. And all of those egrets and the eagles and the other birds that presently nest there. At 83, my fun times are limited, but one of the things that I really enjoy is sitting on my dock. Maybe I got a fishing line out, hoping nothing gets on it. And I'm drinking my coffee and I'm watching the egrets come down and it's really enjoyable for me. That's gonna be taken away. I can't believe that our property values will not decrease because of that also. There are gonna be lights, there's gonna be a lot of noise, there's gonna be an awful lot of runoff water. And I'm afraid that it's gonna start polluting our lake and the few fish that are still left in it. Cause at one time we called it Mud Lake Flats because it's not called a dam. I forgot what that thing is called. Yeah, that was cracked and luckily we have some very responsible citizens in our neighborhood that have put a Band-Aid on it until KDOT repairs it. Their egress is a mess. They are actually, if I read the plans right, encouraging their customers to figure out how to turn south on 143rd and immediately turn onto my block and go all the way through my block so they can get back on 143rd to go north or wherever they want to go. And I would encourage all of you to please reject this request. It's not a place that I would put a car wash, but don't destroy those beautiful noise deadening, visually obscuring trees that we have there. The plan, if I read it right, they're gonna cut them all down and then they're gonna plant some more. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Please keep our trees there, but what I'm really encouraging all of you is to reject what I think is a flawed conditional use change for that area. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
3 minutes,
I
Dawn.
wonder if you could put that site map back up. Ben Foster. And I live at 14022. Okay, sorry.
You have a really good treat for the work tonight.
Well, I'll say. That's previous.
Yeah.
That's the, that was the Airbnb or the.
Oh, I don't wanna go backwards.
No.
I don't wanna go. Be still 10:30.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Well, there. All right, now I'm ready.
Ben Foster, 14022 East Gilbert Street.
He's what?
Gilbert. Okay, and I'm not a good speaker and I'm nervous as hell, but I'm gonna try to do my best.
You're gonna do great.
So first of all, I would say there would be more. My wife and I moved into Springdale Lakes at our house in November of 2001. There was a for sale sign from, I believe, Lusk on that corner across from Quick Trip when we moved there. And I just found out just 3 days ago that our homeowner president, David Steed, passed away recently. That's what we would have had. He was an attorney. He was a great president of our home. He would have been super aggravated about this. He would have been all over this and he would not support this at all. But if it's late, I'm gonna run through this real quick and just kind of throw out some stuff. One, I'm assuming, I don't know if we find out, no offense. The price kept dropping the whole time we were there. I'm assuming Club Car Wash, man, this is a hell of a good price. We're gonna grab this up. I don't know that, but. So. One of the things, if I understand right now, the zoning that they're asking to change is 250 feet to the people that live along here.
Yeah.
They're asking to change that to 200 feet. So last night I spent 2.5 hours and I sat here for an hour, Google Map, all the car washes, automated car washes, not old where you put a quarter in there and spray your car.
By the way, that's gone.
I may be wrong. I couldn't find one that looked like it was even 250 feet from residential homes. There's one there in Town East parking lot. There's one that I go to, Club Car Wash, at 127th and 21st Street, across from a Quick Trip, and there's a dental building and stuff. I don't see any car washes in Wichita. So you're asking to change so they can put this in here from an existing zoning of 250 feet. Must be a reason that exists. 200 feet, so they put this car, and the traffic, as people have said, is crazy now. But the other thing, when I go to Club Car Wash, and I love Club Car Wash. And I get the towel, I go out there and wipe my dash off the car. There's always somebody
Sir, 30
that has
seconds.
their radio cranked up, got their doors open. So the people that live across the
Think of that.
street are gonna be listening to the car radios blasting until 8 o'clock at night. And the lights and all that, and so, anyway, and the other thing too that I thought about. The exhaust fumes of the car, it's just a line of cars going in. And then if you got the rapid one, that's fine, but if you don't, the other day it took me an hour to get up there because they were pushing to buy the fascinating deal. And so it's like, and you can't get out. You're stuck. I couldn't even put it in reverse back.
No escape.
There's a Ford pickup truck in front of me, turbo, diesel, whatever. Even with my recirculation on my car, man, I was just breathing the fumes. So when the wind's blowing just right, guess what? All the people live 200 feet away from the car wash should be breathing in the exhaust and the noise of the car. So I oppose it. And if we had known more about this, I know the people that live there, this place will be packed of people that oppose it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to speak to this?
I have a question. Why were the people that live in this area not notified about this? Because he found out about it 2 days ago. I found out when I came home from a business trip Friday night. And there's the meeting is tonight at 6 o'clock. And now all of a sudden we have to be downtown on Wednesday or Thursday. There was no notice to anybody.
I cannot answer that beyond saying that there's a statutory distance requirement. If a property owner has a piece of property, as Brad said, it's within a certain distance, property owner, not resident, although in your case, your residents have property owners, you would have received written notification in the mail. But anybody outside that 200-foot distance would not. And as close as some of you are across the neck of that lake, you still may not have crossed that 200-foot threshold.
Yeah, and I'll add also, I don't know what the parameters were for the notification list. But as the site gets bigger, the notification area also gets bigger. And so with this being well over 2 acres, I'm gonna guess that it was more than just the 200-foot perimeter. I don't know exactly what that perimeter was, but it should have been more than just 200. But again, whatever that was, if you fall outside of that perimeter area, you won't get a letter in the mail. However, it is also supposed to be noticed on the property with the sign. And then we also do publish in the newspaper.
Well, I've never seen a sign out there with all the big red letters out there that says this is for zoning change, right? There's never been a sign like that on that corner, I guarantee you. And I've been living out there for over 25 years.
I'm sure.
That's not something that we can answer yes
So,
or no,
you see what I'm saying? I
up
mean-
or down tonight. But right now, we've got to talk about what the advisory board is going to do, and we're in the midst of a public hearing. So yes, please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
All right.
Tell us what you feel.
My name is Cheryl Hadley Ayala, and I was here from, yes, C. AYALA, 8420 East Huntington Street. And I was here for the Brook Hollow thing, but I stayed later because my mom lives she lives in Shoal Creek. And I found this interesting because I didn't know that this was happening. And all I have to say, like, everything that they've said is true, and it is terrible. I don't know if you guys ever gone to 143rd and Cal. I mean, it's like 3 cars get across. I know, and I know you said that, but it's like 3 cars. I mean, it's a terrible idea. And I do have a club car wash. I love it. I think it's a terrible idea. Hey, that's all.
Thank you.
And you guys do it. They do it. I got the news call and I realized
All right. Would anyone else like to address that? Please, sir, come forward.
Eric Wertheimer, that's WERTHEIMER 14020 East Lakeview. If you could pull up the nice presentation our neighbors put together. Kristen really kept it within her 3-minute limit. I feel like
Yeah.
it could be worth dwelling on a couple of these photos. Scroll down, if you would, to the, I think it's the view, actually, yeah, that one. So that's their view today. There's about, I'll say 12 to 15 homes along this lake. If you want to call it a drainage ditch, maybe that's what it is to you. To the cormorants that come through, to the bald eagles that, I'm not going to say they nest there, but they visit frequently. you know, the fish, just all flora and fauna. We even saw, it was my son that took the video of the family of the bobcats playing right in that area. In fact, we tracked them when the pond was frozen. We followed their tracks to see where they were going. So I just want this image. People to kind of understand how that's going to change the visual.
That is
And
the car wash, those.
That'll be a car wash, okay? And yeah, they'll put a couple little seedlings in there to meet the requirement. I've lived there for 34 years. That was essentially a field behind there, but Daryl and others in the neighborhood did plant a lot of trees. It's literally a forest. Now, I just flew my drone over it yesterday to kind of verify that. It's not a field. It's not just a perimeter of trees along the edge. It's a forest. And yeah, it's about 3 acres. I can't for the life of me conceive why anyone would choose this location. I mean, I moved here from Michigan, land of lakes and trees, and I sought out this location rather than the moorings because there really didn't have many trees there. But yeah, there's fields all over the area, so why wouldn't we go with that? It's just, I can't even, it's just beyond my comprehension, but I just want that image to kind of soak in. Imagine what that's gonna do to our home value, much like my other neighbor said. I mean, we get these assessments and I can't imagine what it would do to the home value. So not to mention the impact to the wildlife. So, I just wanted people to have a minute to look at that image because Christie had to move pretty fast to go through all the things I think.
Like the rest of us, look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. you go.
Cheryl with a C, excuse me, Wertheimer spelled the same as my husband.
Are you also a?
14020.
That's nice. That's
I am curious when you talked with KDOT, because I'm assuming, given all the time and effort and resources that KDOT has put into that intersection, that you talked with them, because I thought I had heard something about no sidewalk, and the latest plans we have, there will be a sidewalk, not to mention messing up all their plans there that they've worked so hard to help with. But I'm trying to visualize people on Kellogg going east on the frontage road, which will be a frontage road, turning south on 143rd, and then with all the traffic there will be a sidewalk. So it is a safety issue because you'll have cars coming off of the frontage road going south. You've got a sidewalk there with people on it. And then you've got these cars trying to come out, not to mention the residents trying to go north. And, you know, I think you can get the picture that I think there's a safety issue here because there will be a sidewalk according to KDOT. And there will just be too many cars trying to rush in and out for that to be a safe situation for anybody. Thank you.
Daryl, excuse me, Daryl, Darrell, last name Howard, Howard. Live at 14220 Lakeview Drive. Could you pull that picture up again, the lake that Eric was showing? But I want to make sure one thing you guys understand about this picture. It's a pretty picture of the lake. How nice. That's the wrong.
There we go.
Okay, this is taken from, Kristen's deck. The car wash will be right there. Okay, that's 123rd Street, just behind the trees. You're looking northeast right now, okay? Kellogg runs this way. Those won't be there. She's going to be looking at a car wash. That's all, car wash. With a couple of scrub trees. We've looked at the plans, the landscaping plans. That'd be nice for an office building, but it's not gonna do anything for sound or lights. The bright lights that they have on there, they leave their lights on for security all night long. And we're sitting right there. I mean, I'm right next to that view right there. I'm their next door neighbor. We're just gonna be inundated with
with lights 24/7, all night long. And
sound.
well, yeah, the sounds. The decibels, Diane?
Well, it's how sound travels over.
Oh,
water.
yeah. Sound travels better and farther over water than it does over land. Because it bounces off of the water, then bounces off of the atmosphere, and it just carries farther. If you've ever been on a lake, you know that. That's why boats that have loud radios are so irritating on a lake. Because it does travel farther. So we're gonna hear those vacuum cleaners. This particular car wash, the one that Diane sat outside of up at 21st Street, had how many vacuums?
They had 16.
16 vacuums. This one's scheduled to have 24. So it's a bigger car wash. It's going to be noisier. And it's gonna be busier. That particular intersection in your paperwork there, Diane looked, and back in 2019, they did, every 5 years, Wichita does a study on how many cars.
30 seconds.
Okay.
No traffic.
Yeah, go through an intersection. In 2019, they did it. They'll do it again this year. We don't have those yet. But at 21st Street, it was. Okay, at 21st Street, it was. Oh, crap. 21,000 cars. A day at that intersection. At our intersection. There was, how many?
36,000.
36,000. And that's before, sorry, that's before they put the flyover. Say something about the flyover traffic,
Oh,
the noise.
well, I want to offer this to everybody to pass it through. This is what KDOT's most recent. Oh, Diane Howard. Same address. 220.
Two ends of thing.
Yeah. And we've been there 37 years.
Great.
This is the most recent map of what KDOT plans to start in 2026. In fact, I spoke with JB.
JR.
No.
JB Wilson.
Uh-huh.
Is he with K?
Yeah.
KDOT?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's out of our. yeah.
I understood
Yeah,
him
but
to
it-
say that we weren't even on the plans for the Thursday meeting.
That's KDOT. I don't know who that is. So that's not part of our department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, he was gonna put on it.
It needs to be coordinated.
Oh, where was I? Anyway, that's a picture of what they anticipate having. Well, could you bring up the map or go on the slide a little bit further? Keep going. Okay, here it is. This is currently our map. And you'll see about what 4 or 5 different scenarios is how to use the current to go across or get from the proposed car wash back to Kellogg. One of the worst ones is they go right across all those lanes of cars. And you have been through that area, you know what that is. Turn lane and 2 turn lanes. It's a mess. Anyway, all the other ways, most of these people, if they just park their car, they're not gonna wanna go on Edgewater. It's dirt. You know, you don't wanna do that in a brand new car that has been washed. So they will come all the way through the neighborhoods to get back. And after seeing 58 cars go, or pardon me, 101 cars that went through there in 58 minutes, those were clean cars. I didn't count the ones going in, just the ones that came out. Only 12 of those did not use that. It's gonna be, it's a horrible mess as far as getting in and out of that area. And then add the KDOT issue, construction then, they have been told by the people I've contacted with at KDOT that they have to have 1 lane construction during that construction. So then we will be down to 1 lane. But just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, then sir.
My name is Randall Wood. You can leave this map right here. It's 14741 East Lakeview Drive. And I'm just here to support my neighbors to the west. I live in this section here. This is my road here to get out onto Kellogg every morning when it's backed up, clear down past here. I mean, we have one lane to get out. And so all the school kids and all the traffic, we sat here and wait and wait and wait, and finally somebody lets us out. And and multiple lights go by. This area here, when you talk about this is a retention pond basically that drains across Kellogg back here and drains into here. And then it spills under into our lake one. We have 4 lakes that go down through there. And we flood. We flood down there. And we're not in the city. We're in the county. And we're an improvement district. And so we have gravel roads. We have to maintain our own roads. And we've had our roads flooded out from all the flooding. So that's another thing to consider, but I mean, and I'm kind of appalled that not more people were notified as well, because we come out on that street just like everybody else down south there. And so, I don't know, I'm totally against it, and I do like Club Car Wash. I got 2 memberships. It's not the right place in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's some final comments from the developer, and then we'll bring the conversation back to the board.
Yes, hopefully just put, I don't know if I'll put anybody's mind at ease, but that's what I'll try to do here. When we talk about the trees that the young lady mentioned, there was over 100 trees planted on their property, that buffers their property. We will not touch those trees. If there was 100 trees planted there, it's off our property. We will not take the trees down. The picture they showed time and time again, so that's, if it's on your property, we're not touching it. We can't legally touch it. And I can tell you, we will not touch those trees if they're on your property. If you also look at the site, what's an invasive species? An invasive species is a species that's involuntarily coming into our area. You look at that site, most of the site within Club Car Wash appears to be cedars. I'm not saying that's all there is, but it's red cedars. And red cedars are an invasive tree species. So that generally looks like what will be taken down. I'm not an arborist. I haven't gone out there and done it, but I am a huge wildlife person. The amount of money I spend a year probably towards the improvement of habitat is ridiculous. It's, if my wife ever knew, I may not be married after 32 years. But as far as this site goes, any water leaving the site will be treated in what we call, and you require, water quality. No water is leaving this site as it runs off the tire and goes right into the drainage pond next door. It will have to be captured, put back through a treatment facility, and then discharged cleaner than it was when it came off of the building, the car, the whatever. So we do have water quality. As far as the price of the ground, I have no clue, but if the gentleman dropped the price down, if Club Car Wash doesn't come, somebody's coming. If the price got really low. And I think unfortunately, this is a situation. The gentleman who owns Club Car Wash, I know personally, we work for him personally. He is an impeccable individual. He has impeccable sites. His sites are well maintained. They are never trashy looking. He is a very detailed oriented individual, and that's the way he wants his sites to be. And I can tell you that's the way this site will be. As the traffic concerns, a lot of traffic concerns I heard were AM, PM peak hours, meaning when people are going to school, when people are going to work. If you're like me, when I use a Club Car Wash, I don't go at AM, PM peaks. I'm trying to get to work. I'm not going to swing in and get a car wash. A lot of this you'll see in off-peak hours. Unfortunately, I think this is a lot of everybody here, I think, has spoken well of Club Car Wash, and we do appreciate that. I think this is a situation, it's just not in my backyard. And unfortunately, we do feel it's a piece that is applicable for Club Car Wash. We're excited about the site. And I think staff's recommendation of approval as following the future land use plans, we request for a favorable recommendation. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I said a moment ago, we're ready to come back to conversation on the board. Do you have something?
I just wanted to interject briefly about the trees that are around the perimeter that the HOA owns and these people 30 years ago planted. It's well known, well, from personal experience of building a driveway in Colorado. When you pour concrete, dig up adjacent trees, it will kill the root system. And those trees will either fall into the pond or they'll die or some combination. That's very well proven. It's a very fine line, unfortunately. So that's just one.
Very well.
Just want to add one thing, make it real quick. I encourage anybody, prove me wrong, go Google any club car wash, any automated car wash, anywhere and find out if it's that close to residential homes. But I could not find a down east parking lot, 127th and 21st Street.
37th Rock Road has one. But it's not a club car wash. All right. Discussion back to the back to the board here. Anybody on the board have questions, comments?
I mean, I would be happy to make a motion and then do discussion unless you guys have things that you want to talk about first.
Anybody else?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that.
Oh, I said I would be happy to make a motion and then have discussion. Unless somebody has something else they want to say. Then I guess I would move to deny the zone change and conditional use requests. My first thing I wrote down was subject to a protective overlay and approval, but after hearing the extent to which this would be detrimental to the local property, which, I mean, you're right, there is a risk that when you take trees down, it could take other trees down. I looked through the golden rules while people were talking. I wanted to be very thorough and fair, and I just don't think that I could. So I'll make that motion, deny to approve the zone change and conditional use requests.
They denied them change and zone and denied a conditional use request.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's two.
Denied.
Okay, well, I mean, honestly, I would be, if we don't get the zone change, the conditional use doesn't matter, but we could leave it at the zone change. Which the zone change is what I had concerns about the entire time.
Is there a golden factor that's based off of?
Yeah, so going from office to limited commercial, even if we put a protective overlay over it, isn't gonna do some, so the first thing would be rezoning it from office to limited commercial, to me is gonna be detrimental to the community around there. And I don't know that it's suitable for that area to have limited commercial there. I think that's why it was zoned general office. So I mean,
If I said, based off of number 5, that it would be detrimental to the public health, safety and welfare, would that be okay with you?
yeah, I think 1, 2, and 5 actually, because I don't think that having limited commercial right there on their back door is what they meant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion.
I think the folks ought to buy the land, make it a park.
It's out of our purview.
Let's get together. Have it declared a natural wildlife park.
But the fact remains that even if it doesn't pass to get rezoned, it's still zoned for
Yeah, it
something
is. Yeah.
to go there.
Right.
A car wash, in my opinion, is not the appropriate use of the land.
And my comment as part of this discussion is I do not have an issue with zoning, but I do have 2 other issues. One is the conditional use, because I do have concerns about the noise. And I live in a neighborhood that is severely impacted by these car washes. It's just not a club car wash. It's another brand. But I also have, and you all didn't get to see, or may not have seen the handout on what the interchange improvements and the 143rd Street improvements are gonna look like. 143rd Street north of the entrance to your subdivision on the west side is gonna be as wide as 8 lanes.
Wow.
And coming out of this car wash, there will be no left turn movement allowed.
Right.
And that's gonna create all sorts of egress, not so much, well, I didn't look to check the ingress, the left turn northbound. But I feel it's gonna create some traffic issues and some egress issues that speak to number 7, Brad. As well, so those are my comments. Any other comments on?
I concur.
And that's your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, far away.
If there are no other comments, I'd say all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I believe we have a unanimous recommendation to deny the zoning.
You guys are just so polite. I just can't get over that politeness thing.
It's,
You.
these evenings can often not just be long, but very contentious, and both you and the group from Brook Hollow were very, very civil.
Yeah.
And made it very easy for us to sit here and.
It's a form of abuse, brother.
Adjourned.
Good to see you. Thank you.